Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to both of our audiences here live in Mammoth Lakes at the Westin Menage Resort. Thank you for joining us live today. We are going to be joined by an online audience, so we have other people joining us throughout Inyo and Mono counties, Central California, other time zones. Welcome to all of you. And today we're going to spend about 3.5 hours going over a lot of different options for businesses that need capital to start, grow, expand, or transition your business. So again, good morning. I'm Kelly Bearden. I'm the director of the Cal State Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. We have a headquarters in downtown Bakersfield, and we are about 227 miles away from where we're going to be in Bishop, but more on that later. So 227 miles, so that makes us what, 268 miles away from our office. But we are here and we have some great resources. We have great resources in your community here in Mono County. And I'd like to just start by saying a big thanks to the Mono County Economic Development and also to the Mammoth Lakes Chamber for not only sponsoring today's program, but really for all the 12 years that I have worked with them. And they've been great partners throughout the entire Eastern Sierra, as are other Eastern Sierra partners in Mono County. But it's really been a really great ride for 12 years, and we've been able to do a lot of great things here in the Eastern Sierra. So thank you again. So just a little bit to tell you a little bit about our agenda today. After you get to listen to me for a few minutes, and we'll have a number, after our welcome, we will have a number of presenters that talk about a lot of different options. We'll fill in the blanks with some of the other programs and also provide resources and some of the wonderful successes that we see here in the Eastern Sierra. So without any ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Deborah Kors. Dr. Deborah Kors is the Dean of the School of Business and Public Administration at Cal State Bakersfield, and she is joining us today. Thank you for being here, Debbie. Take it away.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you all who are here in the room and online with us. It's such a delight to get to know part of our territory. Almost exactly a year ago, July 1st last year, I moved to Bakersfield and became the Dean of the School of Business and Public Administration at Cal State Bakersfield after 29 years at Cal State Northridge in Los Angeles. One of the things that really attracted me to CSUB was that we do host an SBDC. I think it's so imperative. It's a moral requirement that we serve not only students of academics, traditional academics, but also support our community. As a state-funded university, we have to find all the ways we can partner to give back. Through our SBDC, our students benefit through opportunities to learn about small business, to serve small business, maybe intern in the office, get to hear speakers, and so forth. But also our community benefits. And what I really love about the SBDC network, and over a drink at some point, I can tell you about my long ago history with SBDC that was a little bit frightening very early in my career, where I sort of got handed a big role in an SBDC that was well undeserved. I love how community partners come together, chambers, economic development groups, banks, funders, lenders, service organizations all aren't acting competitively. They're acting collaboratively. They're acting in cooperation to help improve the economic development of our region. And that is what I so love about small business. It's the background, it's the backbone of our economy. It's the backbone of economic growth, of social mobility. And all I can tell to our small business owners or dreamers is to hang in there, because if you have the passion, that kernel of an idea, with the help from some of the folks you'll meet today and hear about, you can do anything. And we're just all 100% behind you. So thanks for being here today. I'm looking forward to learning more about the program in this region. I want to thank Kelly, I want to thank Lynn, and I want to thank Leah from our SBDC office for the outstanding job they do, how good they make us look, and how proud I am of their work. Thank you so much.
I'd like to invite our other sponsors to come up here, and let's start with Marcy Castro. And Marcy is with the Mammoth Lakes Chamber of Commerce, and she's filling in a bit today, so she'll let you know that. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you.
Good morning. Yes, definitely. It was, Kelly said, since Brianna's not coming, Brianna's our new CEO, president of the Mammoth Lake Chamber of Commerce. Yesterday, she fell under the weather. So thank you, Kelly, for putting me on the spot. My name is Marcy Castro. I recently joined the Mammoth Lake Chamber of Commerce last year. So this June is my 1-year anniversary. I am the manager of the membership for our team. We have Gina Van Hest here. She's our communications manager. And today we actually celebrate Ken Bringo's retirement. Everybody's invited who is here locally. He has completed his 7 years here with Mammoth Lakes, 48 years with the Chamber of Commerce, and moving on to Las Vegas. One of the things that we have discussed as a team is that we want to make sure, and I'm so happy to see you here, that we are here to help our businesses. We are going to collaborate as a team and reach out, introducing us, our new team of the Chamber of Commerce, and how we can assist. So this definitely is great, so we can learn and we can also give back to the community. Thank you.
And last, but certainly not least, the Mono County Economic Development Group Department, and Amanda Carlson's filling it today. Amanda is thrust into this role with the departure of Jeff Simpson, and Jeff did some great things. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Amanda, take it away.
Thank you all for being here. I'm Amanda Carlson with Mono County Economic Development. And I don't have much prepared to say today, but we are here for you. We're continuously looking for funding opportunities and improvements for the region, and highly focused on unincorporated Mono County. And feel free to reach out to me if you guys have any questions or want to discuss anything. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you for being available on short notice. Jeff left the county, I believe, about 2 weeks ago, and he's moving on to his next adventures in life. But I know many of you know Jeff Simpson and all the great work that he did throughout Mono County and the Eastern Sierra for that matter. And we will miss him. We'll miss working with him. Okay, so let's move on. And our first speaker today is going to be Jim Thompson. And Jim actually I refer to him as the most interesting person I've met in my 12 years on this job.
I had a boring job.
Now that I'm starting to put a little bit of pressure on him, let me tighten the screws. Jim is really a great person in this community. During the pandemic, he worked with over 100 businesses to help them secure pandemic relief funds during much needed time. But Jim's background comes from the mountaineer, the recreation and manufacturing environments, to where him and his brother started a company, Wilderness Experience, that was the first public recreation business in the United States that they sold. Jim moved on to do many other things. The story I like to tell, whether it's true or not, is that Jim told me his dream job at one time in his life was to be CEO of North Face. And by the time they offered it to him, he turned it down. So Jim has really worked in our area with a couple of campaigns for crowdfunding. And crowdfunding, I think, is an incredible opportunity that enough businesses that need capital do not take advantage of. There are several aspects of crowdfunding. Today, we're just going to be talking about the donation side of things and a Kickstarter campaign that Jim did, and Kickstarter campaigns that Jim has worked on. And we will roll it from there. And we're going to try to go on the internet. We've had a couple of issues during the setup, so we'll try to bring up those campaigns. But Jim Thompson, come on up here, please.
15 minutes.
Yeah, 20, whatever you need.
Okay. Well, hi, as he told you, I'm super passionate about small businesses. I've done a whole lot of companies, a whole lot of businesses. The first one was totally done on debt because I was 22 years old and had no money. And we actually built it up large enough to have a few hundred employees and took it public. So that worked out well. And then other ones, and one I got hired by a large company for buying outdoor companies. And they said my goal was to run North Face, except while we were still working on that acquisition, we bought 3 companies in Europe and I got to live in Europe, which was a whole lot better than running North Face in the US. And it was a lot bigger business with offices around the world. So I spent 10 years living on airplanes and traveling and having other people handle everything. I mean, want to make a product, somebody designs it, somebody makes it, somebody gets the UPC codes. So it was super fun to run a big company. But then I did take off 10 years and went sailing. So that was sort of a vacation. But I came back and my first company had gone through a lot of owners and had finally got out of business. And I thought it'd be really good. We had a reunion and about 60 old employees came to this reunion party in LA. And I thought it'd be really fun to take one of the products and make it again because, you know, it was like a brand that nobody knew. Anybody that was younger had never even heard of it. And it was a shame. And we were all talking about how, you know, we all put our lives into making this thing work. And then it just went away. And so after the party and after a few glasses of wine, I thought, you know what, I'm going to see if I can get the trademark back and I'm going to make a product. And so that's what I did. I got the trademark back and decided to make a product. But part of the fun part I wanted to do was see how you could start a company, because everybody had told me that, yeah, you started back in the 70s and it was easy to start a company then and borrow money and do all that kind of stuff, but you can't do that anymore. So I wanted to actually experiment with it and see if I could start a business with no money. So that was my idea how to do it. And if you want to do that, there's not a lot of ways. And that's how I got into crowdfunding, is because talking to people and friends, a lot of people have great ideas and they think, well, yeah, but I can't get the loans. I can't get the money. It's really hard. And I was thinking like, I'm going to prove that you could actually start something with not putting any of my own money into it. I put a lot of time into it, but no money. So I took what was one of our best-selling products in the past, which...
And it is being shared with our online audience, so Jim gets to see it and I get to see it, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. It's really cool if you could look at this.
Yeah. So Jim's going to describe it to you and we will send you the links afterwards, and enjoy it, online audience.
So one of our best-selling was a day pack that in the 70s, we sold, you know, probably 150 or 200,000 of them. And it was called the Clutter Sack. And it was like the cool pack for every climber in the early 70s. So I'm sure Alan even owned one. So I decided to make that one because it was a classic and try to figure out how to do it without money. Crowdfunding was the one which I knew nothing about. So I started researching that. And if you could see it, you would see our Kickstarter file here, what it looked like. To do crowdfunding, it's not hard, but it's a lot of work. And what we did is what I did is I got mailing lists from people. I started putting things on Facebook saying I was thinking about doing it. So I had a big mailing list to start with, and then picked the product and did a Kickstarter site that talked about the product, did a video that kind of interviewed a bunch of old climbers and different people talking about it and people that are around today talking about it. And, you know, you hear about Kickstarter programs with videos. The best videos that Kickstarter shows of success rate are usually the ones that are done not professionally. So it's because if you've ever, I don't know, how anybody invested in Kickstarter programs at all? Okay, cool. Because that's really super fun to do. Some of the best ones are just somebody talking honestly and being recorded on a phone. So you can do it without spending a lot of money, but you have to really think it through, because you need to have a reason that they want that product and what you're going to give them for it. And this was a backpack. And if somebody put in, I even forget the amount of money now, maybe $100, they got one of the first edition packs when we made them. And then there was a series of other I guess you call them awards or benefits you get for putting in money. So if you put in $25, you got a Cordura briefcase, and so much you got a t-shirt. And so you have a lot of levels where people can put in different amounts of money. And a lot of people put in $10. and all they got was a sticker for that. But with Kickstarter, a lot of people do it just because they think it's pretty cool to support some company doing it. And the other thing that's important is having that mailing list, because when you launch it, you want a bunch of people to come in right away. So we had a bunch of special deals that if you're in the first 50 people, you got an extra t-shirt and an extra briefcase or a pouch, or I don't remember what, but different things. The idea is to try to get a whole bunch of people to sign up right away. So when people look at it, they see a Kickstarter thing with already a third or 40% of the total going out. With Kickstarter, you set an amount of money. So you say, I think I set mine at $25,000. If you don't reach that, you get nothing. Kickstarter, and nobody gets charged. So when you go on Kickstarter, you say, I'll put in $100. If it hits whatever their goal is, and people have different goals, then your credit card is charged when they hit that number. And so, we went past the 25,000 very quickly, and then went up to, I think, again, if you could see this, which I think we ended up with 37,000 or so on people putting money in for the pack, which was, I needed about $30,000 to produce the packs. And again, since I was going to do it without putting any of my personal money into it, I had to get close to $30,000 or we wouldn't have been able to do it. Oh yeah, I've seen all this. And so that became successful. It went past the 25,000, and then it went up to the $37,000. And that's usually when people look at Kickstarter programs, they see the fact that they raised so much money and that was successful. What you don't realize is that you could carry a little step further. And I forget the company, I think it was called BackerKit. I think it was a separate app. If they pass their $25,000, then you get an email saying your credit card's being charged and you're going to get your gift or whatever you get. Please put in your address. And that's what people do. And that's usually where it ends. But I use this other program also to have people, when that came up, it's saying, hey, you just did this. Really, you should buy two. You should buy a t-shirt. You should buy all these other things. And we raised another $20,000 that doesn't show on Kickstarter through that when people were putting in their orders. So it was, a little over $50,000 that we got to start this program. And then I was able to have a factory make them for me and deliver them. And it really worked. I mean, it was pretty incredible. And we ended up with a big list. If I was younger and really wanted to do this, it was a perfect position to carry to another product. And that's what a lot of companies do with Kickstarter, because all of a sudden I have a mailing list of 5,000 or 6,000 people with probably, I forget how many actually gave us money. So then you come up with a second product. And you do the same program again, except you already have a group of people that trust you because they got a product and they're excited about doing it. And there's a couple of companies in the outdoor business that have got their entire company going that way just by doing a series of Kickstarter programs, because it's like incredible marketing anyway, and it's free. I mean, that's what's so neat about Kickstarter. They take a percentage if you succeed, but it doesn't cost you anything. So it fell in that category of not spending any money. And then if you built on it, you could carry this farther and farther, and it would be, to me, it's a great way to start a business if you don't have money, which for so many of the best cool ideas, it's by people who don't have the money to do it. And so that worked really well. The other one, which I, of course, can't show you.
They can't see it either.
Oh, they can't. So we did that, and have now, unfortunately, I don't want to do it again, and we're getting so much demand. I gave the remaining inventory to a friend of mine who set up a website and selling off the inventory, but he's just getting so many messages. So now I'm trying to convince him he should do one and make the same product again and do it. So maybe he will. After this, the one I wanted to talk about is another successful one. Is I've joined an organization called the Yosemite Climbers Association, and we have a museum in Mariposa that collects, some of the most famous climbing things, like the first bolts that were placed in the back of Half Dome in the 1800s for putting up the cables, and the shoes of the first ascent people on the nose and everything. So it's a really fun museum, and it's a passion project for this Ken Yeager, who started it probably 20 years ago when he was a climber and he started collecting this stuff, and it grew in. to a huge collection, except nothing to do with it. He just had it stored in his garage and friends' storage lockers and things. And about 3 years ago, he wanted to actually open a true museum. And in perfect, climber dirtbag style, he had no money. So he did a Kickstarter program and had some people help him do it. And they put a Kickstarter program together where mostly you are not getting anything for your money. You're helping support starting a museum for something that you're passionate about. And climbing, probably maybe surfing is like that. It's one of those few sports that is a lifestyle also. And people like me who no longer climb, pretty much say we're climbers, and love the idea of supporting a museum. But then they also took pictures, photos that people had given them from the first ascents of different things. So your awards were quite a few different, either printed photos or printed posters or things like that were it didn't cost very much to do it, but you could raise the money to do it. And he got, he didn't have a good mailing list, so that was a disadvantage, but he did have lots of contacts with climbers, including a lot of famous people. So he went and pretty much called everybody and said, please put this on your Facebook page. Please, have your Instagram thing say people should do this. And he got a whole grassroots group of people coming in and looking at the Kickstarter program. And it worked. He raised about $40,000, which was enough to rent the building for some number of months and to build it with nice displays and everything. And and the museum still exists. We just this year doubled the size of it, expanded it. So it's pretty neat. But without Kickstarter, nobody was going to give him the money to do it. I mean, he's a climber. I mean, he doesn't even know how many times he's climbed El Cap. He thinks 65 to 70, but he's not sure. So, I mean, so he couldn't have gotten money. He was not going to get a bank loan, anything else. And this museum now is, now we get lots of visitors that are, lots of European visitors that are coming to Yosemite visiting it. And if you're ever in Mariposa, I know it's kind of a long drive from here, but except in summertime, it's beautiful. It's worthwhile if you're interested in the history of climbing even a little bit. It's fascinating to go through it, but it's something that would not have existed if it wasn't for Kickstarter. So to me, that's probably why I'm so passionate about the crowdfunding aspects of, starting a business. That's kind of a quick overview of everything. Do you have questions about doing Kickstarter?
Do you want to talk about the project you're working on now? Or can you?
What? Which one? Photo?
The photograph?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, yeah, SBDC consulting is confidential, so we have to tread very carefully.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we've had some incredible SBDC successes over the last 6 months in Bishop and Mammoth. So some of the businesses super. I'm pretty passionate about SBDC too, because I always get to work with people who are starting things. But one of the things I'm trying to help build a museum, and we do big events. We do a big event in Yosemite Valley called Facelift. It gets a couple of thousand volunteers coming too. And we need to raise more money if we're going to keep doing this. And so we have this archive of historic pictures, tens of thousands of famous pictures. Most have never even been scanned, and by some of the most famous photographers. And so I'm trying to start a program where we'll have those all online and people can go in and order one. So I've got about 5 or 6 of the, Warren Harding's pictures and Wayne Mary's pictures and a few of the famous guys from the 50s and 60s already on a website. And you can go on and order, a nice, and they're not the quality you see of a Jimmy Chin would cost you $2,000 or $3,000. We do have those available also, but that's Alan could afford one, but most people don't buy those. But you can get a, nice frame, not a frame print, a matted print for the $70, $60, $70, $80 range, depending on the size, or a framed one for $100 and some. So it's that in between where you could actually afford to put a picture if you wanted a historic climbing picture. And we're doing canvas prints and everything, and it's really working well. And now I've expanded it. I'm going to do a whole series of posters that advertise the museum on the bottom, but it will be, famous Tom Frost pictures or famous Warren Harding pictures or whatever other ones we can do. So it's a fun project. Also doing this, I guess I could put my own money into this one, but I'm not. We're doing it completely. This is a print on demand business, which a lot of you have probably heard about, where you can do a website and sell stuff. And as you sell one of those pictures, you do nothing. It goes to the company, they print it, they frame it, they ship it to the person, and you get the profits. So it's a way of having a pretty cool store that if you have the right ideas, you can sell stuff and it doesn't take an investment to do it in advance. It takes a little bit to set up a Shopify account and stuff, but pretty much that anybody could do easily. And it's a neat thing. My daughter, who is a teacher and the least business-oriented person I've ever met, had a bunch of designs for kids' t-shirts and stuff. So she started a website called One of Those Kids and does nothing on it. And, makes about $1,000 a month off it. And I keep telling her, if you just did more work on this, and she has no desire to do any more work on it. But it shows you that there are a lot of ways today that we didn't have back in the 70s when I first started working. But you can start businesses now without money, just with the enthusiasm and the excitement for doing it. And it's pretty cool. I think, obviously, you can tell I'm pretty excited about the opportunities there. So.
Well, Jim also is working on a campaign with a very famous photographer on a project that will be coming later that he will talk about with you when he can. And it's, I know, a project that he's excited about as well. And Jim, we do have a question for you for our online audience. And it said, I would love to start a project on Kickstarter, but I don't see a choice from my profession. What would you suggest that they do? So the categories on Kickstarter, they don't see one that aligns with them very closely. And Kickstarter does, it's really a platform for the arts. It's designed for arts and projects. Businesses, we kind of skate by having projects.
Yeah. We don't have any idea what
No,
what
it's
that is. Because like Kelly mentioned, one of the ones I'm helping with is a photographer that wants to do a book and wants to publish a book. So that falls in. People have done a lot of, I'm not sure what you'd want to do that you couldn't. People do it for writing a screenplay if they want, or to do a play. People have done Kickstarter programs for that. It's pretty open, and that's really interesting. I'm not sure what the profession would be that you couldn't figure out something. And if you can't figure out something, it may be that it can't work.
And my advice, since Jim is an SBDC consultant, would be to sign up for SBDC services and talk to Jim about it one-on-one. And a great resource. He likes working on Kickstarters. He wants to work on more. So
I have to again say, I knew nothing about SBDCs before the whole COVID thing, because for the last 15 years of my life, all I've done is play and travel. And so I was, and then all of a sudden COVID happened and I couldn't do either of those things anymore. And somehow Kelly talked to me, and that's how I got involved, helping people with all the SBA government loans and different things. But it's fascinating looking at the things that people can do with these projects. So I totally love it. And SBDC is the fact that you can get somebody, and maybe in the Eastern Series nobody qualified, but in the whole organization there's a lot of qualified people, and it's free. I mean, it's pretty hard to decide to do a business without money and then get all the advice and help you want for free. It's totally an amazing thing to do.
and you get to talk to this guy.
But it is, and we've had some really neat successes. And and then the ones we get permission to talk about, Kelly has done highlights on, and it's been pretty neat that people that would have not had companies before, would have not had businesses before, now are. So
can anybody from our live audience guess on how I found Jim?
Or at the museum.
Keep coming.
You owned a wilderness experience sleeping bag back in the 80s like I did.
Oh,
I wished I did.
yeah.
No, I found him on Kickstarter. In our 2019 Capital Summit here in Mammoth. I got on just to see some of the projects that were going on one night. And there was Jim. And then I talked to another local business owner, a gentleman that owns Ridge Marina. You guys might know him locally. And he says, hey, I'll introduce you to Jim. And so there, Jim presented in 2019 for us here. So that is how, very simple. I found him on Kickstarter.
Yep. And Ridge Marina is doing incredible. You don't, I mean, for Mammoth and Bishop we need some more companies like that, you know, that actually have high paying jobs available, that are producing products, whether they're manufacturing or sourcing or whatever. And at least in my view, moving away from more recreation businesses, we need to make this, you know, more like some of those towns in Colorado where there's manufacturing, there's, you know, good paying jobs for people. Housing is still outrageous, but you can get $100,000 a year job there, which, you know, in Mammoth, you can't move here and even make enough to rent a place. And so there needs to be more small businesses that can actually grow, and living here is a pretty wonderful place to live, I think. And Bishop too, both of them.
Well, Jim and he spent 10 years sailing, sailed 50,000 miles. So if he says Mammoth's a great place to live, I believe it. Well, thanks, Jim.
Okay, well, thank you.
Great having you. Now, from my side of things, I love the benefits of crowdfunding that Jim mentioned, but there's a couple more that are really nice that I'm going to throw in. And one of them is today, when you listen to a lot of our lenders, they're going to be talking about the need for business owners to actually invest in their own business. They use this phrase that I don't really care for, so none of you try to use skin in the game today, but it does require a down payment. The nice thing about this capital contribution, when your lender wants you to have some money that you put in, you can earn this through crowdfunding and it counts. That is money that has come to you, and we've seen several businesses that have leveraged a crowdfunding campaign. What are you doing? Leveraging a crowdfunding campaign and actually, okay, close enough. And actually moving into their business and actually qualifying for a small business. So it's great in that regard. There are other forms of crowdfunding that we're not getting into today, such as where you can get investment for your business. Whereas security laws were relaxed in 2012, with a thing called investment or equity crowdfunding, where you can get partners for your business, and there are platforms for that. And we have SBDC advisors who can work with you on that too. Okay, our next presenter is Lisa Carball. And Lisa also to be subjected to one of my random introductions. But Lisa is the vice president for SenCal Business Finance Group, and they are located in 3 different jurisdictions around California. She, SenCal has merged with an organization that she will tell you about, Mid-State Development, who was really active in all these events and did a number of loans in the Sierras, and mainly in the Eastern Sierras. So Lisa's here to talk about that. And Lisa, take it away, please.
Like Kelly said, my name is Lisa Carball. I am the Business Development Officer or Senior Loan Officer with SenCal Business Finance Group. So just a little bit about who SenCal Business Finance Group is. So we are a private nonprofit organization that was established in 1984. We were also licensed by the SBA in the same year in order to deliver the SBA 504 loan program. There was just a recent change here locally, February of 2024. SenCal Business Finance Group acquired what was Mid-State Development here locally. We are in the same location that where Mid-State was, on the corner of 17th and H. So SenCal is designed to assist businesses with financial growth. So the SBA program offers debentures or bonds that are sold in the privately held market in order to guarantee 40% of a loan that you get with the bank. So these bonds, like I said, are fully guaranteed by the SBA. So it's a wonderful program. So let's talk about the program. So the 504 program was designed for commercial loans for expanding businesses. Typically, the 40% or could be as high as 40% portion of that loan offers a fixed rate much below the market. For example, the fundings for March, we were at 6.23, typically about a 1% below what you would see at a financial institution on 40% portion. The financing is offered for fixed assets, real estate, and machinery and equipment. that has an economic life of at least 10 years. The terms for the real estate is 10, 20, and 25-year amortization. Those rates are fixed for that period as well. Machinery, you typically see a 10-year term on the machinery and equipment. Again, it has to have an economic life of at least that 10 years. So the 504 program is designed to promote economic development here in the community. So it helps business owners afford long-term financing, keeps capital in their pocket, and helps with personal income and wealth, because on the 504 program, you're not seeing liens on personal property. It also promotes and helps the community with jobs, increased taxes, and other business investments. The private lender, the third-party lender that we partner up with, it gives them a safe, secure option where they're at a 50% loan to value on an SBA 504. It also gives those financial institutions community reinvestment credit, which is very important right now in this day and age with financial institutions. And CDCs do have to be certified by the SBA, and there's over a network of 210 nationwide, and they're mostly not-for-profit. So advantages of the SBA 504 program. So it offers clients long-term below market fixed rates. Client equity requirement can be as little as 10%. We'll cover this a little bit more in the presentation. Some require a little bit more down, but we'll talk about what those situations are. The bank can provide 90% financing for clients. And then again, that partner, that third-party lender that we partner up with is at a 50% loan to value on that lien on that project. So the minimum loan amount. The smallest debenture can be $50,000. So that translates to an overall project size of about $125,000. I know the smallest that I've done is $225,000 overall project. So again, it was an office condo for a dentist. So like I said, the limit is $50,000. But typically our projects range around the $500,000 range overall. But again, that $50,000 is the SBA portion, that's the minimum. So let's talk about the maximum SBA loan amount. So you can borrow up to 40% of the project cost or the overall SBA guarantee portion. So let's talk about that a little. So the overall SBA portion is $5 million, and that's for an economic development, job creation project. So that's for the debenture portion or the 40% portion that we're talking about. And that is for over per project. So 5 million is that cap. Over the lifetime, a person can have up to 16.5 million in SBA funds. Again, overall projects, and that does include 7A lending that a client may have. But one project is capped at 5 million. There is a little caveat though. If that project is involved with manufacturing or building a building or acquiring a building that involves manufacturing, that bumps that up to 5.5. The other caveat is green initiatives. So if there's solar being added onto that project, or if it's reducing the overall energy consumption in a particular building by changing lighting or adding solar, that can also bump that project cost up to 5.5 million on the SBA portion. So this is just a little snapshot, a visual of what the typical 504 structure looks like. So overall 100% project, you have a 50% loan with the third-party lender. You have your customers or your clients' 10% injection, and we'll talk about that, what that injection involves. And then we have the SBA CDC portion of 40%. This is on a standard purchase with no extra special items, such as a startup business or special purpose. So again, here is the 504 project financing model. Just gives you guys a visual on a project sample of around $1 million. So the first mortgage lender, the third-party lender, would hold a loan amount for $500,000 and be in first lien position. You see the SenCal SBA portion is $400,000 and we sit in second lien position. So during the process, when the client is requesting for a loan, that total of $900,000, that 90%, is completed by the financial institution. The 40% portion is done as a bridge loan that is kept with the financial institution for a short time while the SBA and the CDC gets approval to purchase that from the financial institution. So typically that bridge loan, you'll see an interest-only period, typically between 6 and 8 months, till we can get that purchased and acquired by the SBA. So the client's portion or the borrower's portion is 10. And this is cash or equity. So they can either come up with the cash of $100,000 towards the overall project, or, for example, if the client had purchased land and they built on this particular piece of land and they paid $200,000 or $100,000 for the land, that equity that they have in the project by purchasing the land goes in as their portion or their injection. So that's, again, just a real quick visual of standard project modeling. So I mentioned that there's a couple of items that require a little bit more down payment. So that's a special purpose property or a new business. So what is considered special purpose? So it's going to be your gas station, your hotel, car washes, things that normally involve either underground or a little bit higher risk, they consider special purpose. A new business is defined by the SBA of a business that has less than 2 years of tax returns filed. So they've been in business for less than 2 years. So that requires an additional 5% equity injection or down payment from that borrower. So again, here's a sample. It's $1 million project. The first mortgage is $500,000, which is in a first lien position, a great position for that financial institution to be in. And then you have the second lien position or SBA portion of $350,000. Then you see the borrower coming in with 15%, which equates to $150,000 in this situation. And again, can be cash or equity in the property. So let's talk about some eligibility requirements. So who's eligible for an SBA 504? So it has to be an operating for-profit business. They have to be located in the United States. And then the SBA defines it designed for small and mid-sized businesses. So there's a recent change by the SBA that just took place this last Monday, where they actually increased the tangible net worth up to 20 million on a business, and they can have an average of 6.5 million net profits after taxes. So that was an increase from, I believe it was 15 million tangible net worth, and then the net profits were previously 5 million. So there's an increase of 1.5 million there on that average. So gives a little bit more room on some mid-sized businesses. Job creation. Typically, you want to see 1 job created for every $90,000 loaned on an SBA 504. Again, we want to look at this as an economic development and job creation tool. The occupancy requirement for the owner for existing businesses or existing buildings, they have to occupy at least 51% of the square footage of that building. They can lease out to that 49% and get some income from there. That income just cannot be factored in the overall qualification. On construction, So on a new construction, the client does have to occupy 60% of that new construction. And then there's an option for future growth in the remaining 40%, where in 10 years, if that business does grow out of that 60% square footage, that they can at least move into an additional 20% and occupy overall 80% of that building. So it is designed really for that future growth. So eligibility or eligible uses for proceeds. So you can use an SBA 504 to acquire land for construction on new buildings. Like I mentioned, you have to have that 60% occupancy requirement, and that's at closing. You can purchase land and do land improvements. You can purchase one or more existing buildings as long as that operating company is occupying 51% of the square footage. You can remodel, convert, expand, and renovate. So you can include tenant improvements on your building purchase. You can also use the program to purchase machinery or equipment with at least a 10-year life. And you want to think of the machinery as large pieces of equipment that are going into a building that are bolted down that just can't be moved very easily. It's basically that long-term heavy equipment. And then refinance an eligible project debt. So we are currently doing SBA 7A refinances. And if you have equity in the property, you can actually now refinance that into an SBA 504 loan. So it gets you out of that variable rate and into a fixed rate, longer amortized loan. So that's a new option. So business owner advantages gives you the low down payment and enhanced cash flow. So again, you can have as little as 10% down in your project. Long-term financing at competitive rates and up to a 25-year fully amortized. Like I mentioned, our March fundings were at 6.2, which is actually really great rate. It gives you a predictable monthly payment because you know that payment's not going to change. It's fully amortized, 25 years, and you know every single month there's not a rate reset or any additional things that are going to change that payment. It's fully amortized for that 25 years or 20 years. And then ownership options are tailored to meet small business owners. So it gives you the option to actually put that property into a holding company, or you can hold title personally, you can hold title under a trust, or you can hold title under the operating company. So there is some flexibility there to help you as a business owner. And then we do offer projection loans to be considered on a case-by-case basis for those startup businesses. So things to know about the 504 program. So there is prepayment penalty within the first 10 years of that loan. There are no additional principal payments allowed towards that SBA portion. Now talk to your financial institution because you could pay additional to principal towards the first lien with no prepayment penalty. But again, that is something that you would discuss with your third-party lender. And then no investor projects are allowed. The 504 program is really designed for that business owner that is looking to expand to a larger location, add a second or third location. So it is really designed, it is designed for that business owner and that owner-occupied property. So how do you apply for the 504? So applications can be processed directly through a CDC like SenCal Business Finance and done in partnership with a third-party lender. So if you don't have a relationship with a financial institution or with a relationship manager at a bank, you can come directly to SenCal and we can find the right partnership for you depending on your project, because there's different financial institutions that have appetites for certain types of loans. And then you can also work directly with your relationship manager if you have a great relationship with your banker, and they can collect the loan package and you can let them know, hey, I want to work with SenCal as my CDC for the 504 program, And then they contact us and we work together to get that accomplished for you. And we can actually underwrite the deal in conjunction and simultaneously through the process. So what would you need to apply for the 504? So you would complete an SBA application, which we would email out to you. So if you're interested, you can reach out and we'll send you a needs list. A financial statements on the business, the operating business. We would need 3 years of business and personal tax returns. Again, for those startups, we have special circumstances for that. You can definitely go see Kelly for some projections to help you put a business plan together to show that startup business and the success it'll have. Personal financial statements, we would need business resumes to show that you do have history in operating that particular type of business if you are a startup. And then business overview and history. So what's the SenCal advantage? So we have local underwriting. I have my underwriter right here in our office who understands Kern County, Bakersfield, and the Central Valley and how businesses operate in this area. We have local credit approvals. We have local documentation and closing. I've got my closer right here in the office as well. And we do work with you on eligibility and pre-qualification if you need one to make an offer. So please remember and think of SenCal as your SBA information resource, which I will provide you some information here on this slide, which is my cell number, which is the best way to reach me. You can call or text. Our office number, which gives you access to our underwriter as well as our closer, is available here. And then our address. We are located at the same place where Mid-State Development was on the corner of 17th and H at 1631 17th Street. My email address and then our website is sencalfinance.com. So go and check it out. Any questions?
Fantastic, fantastic information.
Thanks, Kelly.
Great program, like I've always said, and really, now's a great time to ask Lisa questions. Go to the Q&A, pop in some questions, and I think one thing I just wanted to mention and talk about briefly was that, when you get about a 60% occupancy, a lot of people don't zoom into that right away and realize that they might be growing their business and need a 6,000 square foot building.
Right.
And if they have a sufficient size lot that they might have purchased, right, oftentimes it is economically feasible to build a 10,000 square foot building and lease the other 4,000 square feet. And then what they're doing is even providing greater economic development by making a space open for another business.
Correct.
So do you see much of that? Do you hope to see much of that, Lisa?
We do actually see that. Like I said, people, if they're going to spend the money to build businesses, they're going to make sure that they are thinking of future growth, long term, because it's a long-term asset that they're purchasing. So, going larger with that opportunity to actually eventually occupy at least 80% of that within that 10 years. So we do see that.
The other thing that sticks out is the fixed rate, the 6.2% fixed rate. There was news again today by the Federal Reserve hoping that they're going to reduce rates, but a 6.2% rate when the prime rate, the Wall Street Journal prime rate today is 8.5%. So that's incredible that you can get a fixed rate for that kind of value.
Right. No, it's a great rate. We've seen them drop over the last few months, so hopefully that will continue to just give business owners more buying power with those low rates.
And the other SBA program we talk a lot and have the last few weeks is the SBA 7A loan. And that is their guaranteed loan program, which does not offer a fixed rate, which is a variable rate.
It is a variable rate tied to prime.
And oftentimes that can swing as much as almost nearly 3% over the prime rate.
That is
And-
correct.
But the great thing about having the fixed rate is that you can plan, you can project what your payment's going to be over a long period of time and not have that interest rate shock or that interest rate insecurity that comes with
Right.
variable rate.
No, absolutely correct. You are absolutely right. That's where we're seeing a lot of 7A refinances
Mhm.
because there is that volatility with the 7A program. Again, 7A program is a great program for those who maybe do not qualify for the 504 program. It allows them to at least get into or acquire a business. But if there is that real estate that's tied into that 7A, later on down the line, we can always take a look at that property. If there's equity in that property, we can always refinance that into a 504. I'm actually in the process of doing that for a client that is expanding their business. And then I look to see that they had a 7A when they acquired their very first property, and we're refinancing them out and saving them about 3% and over $1,000 a month on that.
Great. So, you know, at the
Yeah.
SBDC, we're seeing these days a lot of acquisitions. We're seeing kind of a grain of American businesses, American small businesses. And oftentimes there's that real estate component in there. So on an acquisition, if there is, say, a real estate or heavy equipment component to that particular sale, can that be a 504 loan?
That can be a 504 loan, correct. And then the acquisition piece can be a separate 7A.
And oftentimes I think we see at the SBDC that a business owner will elect to hold the property in a different form of legal entity, maybe a LLC or an S corp or some other entity. And oftentimes they retain that component of it, but oftentimes they're willing to let go in the acquisition. So that's great to know. Well, we have some questions. Let me go to the questions and see what we have in here. And the first one is, are there balloon payment options?
There are not balloon payment options on the 504 program. It's fully amortized. Again, 10, 20, or 25 are the options.
But you are able to repay it without penalty after 10 years.
You would have to pay it off completely if you were to pay it down. You would not be able to do a principal reduction on it because, again, it's looked at as a long-term asset. So after 10 years, there's no prepayment penalty, but if you wanted to pay or reduce that principal, it would have to be paid in full.
Okay, thank you for the question. And next question is, I have 11 full-time employees. If I'm wanting a building and need 900,000, does the 90,000 per employee count work?
Yes, your existing employee retention does count towards that.
And again, you can always build a bigger building and rent it out if it makes economic sense. And
Correct. You're
you never
absolutely
know
right,
these
Kelly.
things, so. Okay, our next question is, tried a few years ago to expand our manufacturing footage. I don't see a question in that, but I think the 504 program is open for manufacturing type.
Yes, most definitely. And again, there's that extra 500,000 that's on the overall project cost.
So yeah, great program. If you're a small manufacturer looking to expand, looking to quit renting and actually buy your own property. Next question is again based on the job creation component. And can you work with both full-time and part-time workers to create full-time equivalents?
That is correct. So we do ask how many full-time and part-time you have, and that is all calculated in. And again, existing employees are counted because it's retaining jobs. And then if you're adding square footage, it's looked at to expand. And that's where, again, it's not overnight. It's how many employees do you plan to add for the overall?
Next question is the rate on the first loan, the first deed of trust, is it fixed also?
Good question. The rate on the first loan falls under standard commercial lending terms. So I came from commercial lending. So typically you're going to see a 10-year term amortized over 25 years. And there is either, it's either fixed for that 10 years, or there's a one-time rate reset after 5 years. Or sometimes it's fixed for 7 and then a rate reset for the remaining 3. But typically max term is 10 years that you'll see with the balloon payment due that you have to refinance out of. So it's fixed for a certain period of time, but there's typically a rate reset in there. That would be something you discuss with your third-party lender or your financial institution, and they would be able to discuss those terms with you.
Yeah, and just a quick reminder on that structure, it's 50% is done by the bank or lender or third-party lender. So 50%, and they hold the first deed of trust, and then you come in the second position. So you do have the rate security for 40% of your total transaction cost. And then the 10% is the owner injection that they need to put in.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely right.
Okay, great. Next question. Is there a restriction as far as metal buildings or a 3D printed concrete structure or other material? Would a lender not participate if there was no metal siding or concrete blocks? I guess we're getting into the kind of materials, and obviously there's new construction materials that are out. Are there any limitations on the construction of the particular building?
No, as long as the financial institution that you're partnering up with that's going to hold 50% is okay with the contractor and the type of building that's going up.
Next question would be, would the 504 program be available for an individual purchasing an existing business? I think we got a little of that a while ago. Or would it be smart to look at 7A and refi into the 504 once it became available?
So it really depends. If you're buying that small business and there is a real estate component to it, it's really beneficial to use the 504 program to acquire the real estate that way. And then the business assets and the business itself financing with an SBA 7A.
So multiple loans would be probably get you the cheapest interest rate over
Correct.
lowest average cost of capital by utilizing the 504 for the real estate, and then the goodwill and the other components of buying the existing business could fall under a separate deal. It could be done by the same bank that's actually doing the 504.
Correct. You're absolutely right.
Seen that deal. It's out there. Can you
Yes.
start payments on the loan 2 years after taking out the loan? Is there a component for delaying the first initial payments of the loan?
No, unfortunately not. So once your loan closes, you have, again, your 90% financing done with a financial institution. 50%, your payment starts 30 days after you close. And then you have the bridge loan or the interest-only loan that you'll have a monthly payment on 30 days out. And then once the SBA purchases that bridge loan, you have now your fixed payment that you know you're going to have for 25 years, and that payment starts 30 days after.
Great.
Unfortunately, there's not a deferment.
No deferments. So jumping into the chat box, Maureen, thank you for clarifying and getting some great resources for the EIDL loan and the Fresno District Office information. You can call them by phone or by the email address. Also, there's the EIDL hardship SBA link where you can go in and look at the link online. There's the employee retention credit, and there's information on that. For more information, again, that program ends in 2 days, so time is obviously of the essence. The Corporate Transparency Act, you can go to the website and view what we talked about as far as beneficial ownership information and the private information that you will need to provide in that. There's a link to our YouTube channel. Go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. We're over 400 subscribers now. Get a notification when Maureen pops the next webinar in, which this is going to be this one, and it's going to be in just a couple of days. You can sign up for no-cost consulting with our seasoned and very well experienced and I think fantastic set of consultants. And you can go to our email address in order to, or excuse me, our website and get that started. Google reviews, if you want to leave a link or a review for there's the link that Maureen has provided. Compliments to Lisa by the immortal.
By Keith. Thanks,
Uh,
Keith. I appreciate it.
And also, there's the gone but not forgotten, you know? So going to retirement, what a wonderful thing. There's the
Yes.
contact information as I drool over retirement. So contact information for Lisa and where you want to get more information on this, the credit requirements, and next question, are there resources provided to help us find an office building if we're interested in 504 loan or even new construction?
You can definitely reach out to us here at SenCal. We have a great, set of resources of brokers that we can partner you up with, depending on the type of building that you're looking for. So again, we can help you with that.
Yeah, you got great contacts in the
We
commercial
do.
field, and that would probably be very valuable.
Yes. Yeah, because each broker kind of specializes in if they're industrial, office building, if it's, office space, medical office space. So feel free to give us a call and we'll put you in contact with a couple people.
And our last question is going to be this one. Is it possible to combine your home and your business with the 504 program?
That's a good question. So it depends on where the home is and what the permitting is if you're able to operate a business out of the home. It depends on the business itself. So I do have one particular business that is out of a residential area, but it is a kind of a residential care facility that doesn't need the permitting because they have under X amount of clients who are there. So we can use a home in that situation. So it's really a case by case basis. So feel free to give us a call here at SenCal and we can discuss that a little bit more in detail.
Well, that's an outstanding answer because I could have provided a little more information. The question is asked from a business owner in Inyo County, or maybe even within the Inyo County in the city of Bishop, to where there's a huge issue in Inyo County with land and finding land. And we see more and more of those, and it's in local ordinances, I think even are assisting businesses to locate more creatively because of the shortage of land. So excellent answer and excellent presentation. The next speaker really needs no introduction, but I'll give him one anyway. Scott Rogowski is the Associate Director. He is the Associate Director of the Northern California SBDC Regional Network. And if you draw a line like from Santa Cruz to, say, the Stockton and Alpine County to the state of Nevada, and you go everywhere north, that is the Northern California region. When Scott was at the Northern California region, where he still is, he founded the Northern California SBDC Finance Center. And they have done some great work with a lot of different programs and a lot of opportunities. And I really enjoy Scott's presentation because what I learned is that a lot of getting small business capital for a lot of our businesses that we work with, a lot of our businesses in our community, is the fact that not everybody is bankable, but there are so many alternatives that Scott has come up with and so many he's going to share with you today. So Scott, take it away, please.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Cool. I'm not going to use the mic. If there is a mic, I'm just going to put a timer on, make sure I don't go over. All right. Good stuff. So how many of you are starting a business? Raise your hand, starting a business. And then how many of you are existing businesses? How many don't know why you're here? Just hanging out? Just want to learn? Cool. Yeah. So I think I've known Kelly think like 10 years. I don't know, long time, probably too long. And we've gone back and forth on different types of lending parameters. So you can ask questions as I talk. And I've been in small business lending for about 20 years. I was a commercial lender. I did some time at Wells Fargo, some time at Farmers and Merchants in Central California, which is all about ag and SBA lending. And then I quit because I got really tired of saying no to business owners when you're applying for loans. Because when you apply for a loan at a bank, you can only do those bank products, and you can't offer like the array of lending that exists on the ether, like on the www. And that's why I quit. So I just wanted to work with small businesses, start my own company, and advocate and help them apply for loans and get funding. And then I stumbled across SBDC. I told them, hey, I could do this so much better than you're doing it. You should hire me. I'm badass. Let's go get some loans closed. And so SBDC, this is a like quick agenda, but like SBDC's Small Business Development Center has been around over 40 years. We're funded by SBA, Small Business Administration. We're essentially the boots on the ground for small businesses. We do what SBA can't do. We give you advice on their lending products and all of the other lending funding products that exist. So I'll talk a little bit about SBDC, making sure that you're asking the right questions to the lenders. They're going to ask you certain questions. Obviously, a lot of the stuff I'm going to go over today is super highly condensed. It's not in the weeds. It's not a credit memo. It's not applying for a loan, but it gives you a good base as to why SBDCs exist, why we're here, and how we can work with you. So I took this quote from a lender. He is a fintech lender, and they told me, Scott, like businesses don't necessarily want the money in the same day. They just want to know their options in the same day. And when you go to a bank, whether it's a big bank, a little bank, a non-bank, or whatever, you can't find out most time you can't find out your options the same day because they have to apply, you have to qualify. They don't have a conversation with you. They just work with you through an application. So if you go to the SBDC, we're not regulated like banks. So we can do that. We can work with you and help you figure out the best options. Most of the people at SBDC that are helping businesses get financing, they know about crowdfunding. They know about SendCal financing. They know about all the different types of financing that you're going to find out today. And they essentially sit down with you, ask you some questions, which are, whoops, not too far. Sorry. All right. Yeah. So here's the questions. All right, cool. So these are the questions that I asked when I work with, I'm not sure why income status is blue, but we essentially just try to find out, get a pulse of where you are at, whether you're a startup, you're an existing business. Startup means different things to different lenders. So you could be in business, 2 years and you're considered a startup, or under 2 years and you're a startup. Some like oddball banks like Umpqua, you have to be in business 3 years to do loans with Umpqua. So like there's different categories and parameters around if you're a startup or not. For me, when you're working with me and my clients, if you wanted to fire a corporation today and start your business today, that would be considered a startup. And there's a lot of different characteristics around that. So it's really important to understand your business model, your experience that you have in that industry. Hopefully you have some experience, some credibility that you're bringing to the table. What does that look like? How much are you looking for? What's the money for? It's important to not just go to a lender and say, hey, just give me whatever you can. I don't care. If I qualify for $1 million, great. If I qualify for 10,000, great. You should know how much you want, what you're going to do with it. Not necessarily down to the penny, but just kind of looking, you should have a general idea. You should know where your credit score is. Why is it under 700? There's a lot of reasons why it would be. And then what type of collateral do you have? Are you're going to ask the spouse if you can use the house type stuff. And then what is your income? So your income is really important. So if all of you that are starting a job have a job right now, starting a business and have a job right now, please don't quit your job, because that's a great secondary income to qualify for the loan. Because when you start a business, you have projections, and projections are all made up. So most lenders don't really look at it unless there's some great assumptions. Oh, you want me to stand? Oh, I have to.
People like you, you know?
Oh, I have to stand here.
Smile.
Okay. Hi. All right. Cool. Okay, I'll stand right here. All right. So those are the questions you can prepare when you go talk to a lender, do some homework before, and then so I have a lot of businesses that ask me like, hey Scott, like, what's up with a business plan? Do I need a business plan? Some lenders want a business plan, some lenders really don't care about it. It doesn't have to be 30 pages long, it could be like 3 to 5. Some people turn in a page for a business plan, but it's really just following those 5 things, like the team. Why are you the best team to run and operate this company? Your marketing, your competition, you know, have you validated the product or service that you're selling? And when I work with my clients to help them find financing, I don't start with a business plan. I start with like those 7 questions before, because I'm trying to help them qualify for a loan and let them know their options before they go, you know, out to the wild, wild west and just apply to like 10 banks. Here's another quote that I learned in my business school: if the cash don't flow, the loan don't go. So cash flow is huge with lenders. And part of cash flowing a loan to see if you can qualify for a loan is based on the affordability of it. And can you really afford a loan with all your, a lender is going to look at all your personal income and personal debt payments, and then all your business income and business debt payments, and they'll bring it together, and it's called global cash flow. And I was just talking to people at my table today. The interest rates are not low. Like, they're not 3s, they're not 2s, they're not what they were in the pandemic. The prime rate is at 8.5. So it starts at 8.5, and then they kind of go from there. That's for non-real estate lending. For real estate lending, it's a lot lower. But most SBA 7(a) loans, or most non-real estate loans, are about 10 years financing. So and for every $25,000 that you borrow on a 10-year loan is about $350 a month payment. So you can kind of figure out, you know, does that work with you know, my current cash flow? So what do lenders look at? They really, you know, there's the 5 C's of credit they talk about a lot. But you know, cash flow is really number 1. Can you afford the loan? Are you a startup? Can you afford it? Are you an existing business? Can you afford it? Do you have profit? Are you a profitable company to pay for that? Credit story, like, what's on your credit? Why is your credit 550? Why is it 650? Why is it 750? Why do you only have 2 credit cards? Why don't you have credit cards? How long have you had credit? Like, all that's really important to know, and that's what we can help you with at the SBDC. Collateral, do you have it? Do you not have it? You know, Sencal mentioned that they don't require additional collateral. Some lenders do. They want to take your house. A lot of people don't want to give up their house. How many of you own a house? You don't want the lender to take your house, right? Well, it doesn't really work that way, but the house equity could help you qualify for a business loan. And some lenders want more collateral than they really need for the loan, but you kind of figure that out as you go through it. Yeah, so debt to income, they throw out a lot of ratios. Big banks are like a 1.25 to 1 ratio. So that means you make $1,250 a month, you have expenses of $1,000 a month. You take $1,250 divided by 1,000, and that's 1.25 to 1. This is kind of in the minutia, but what you need to know is that business lending is super customizable, and it's flexible, and it's negotiable. And if you have a good partner like the SBDC, we can help you find that financing and negotiate that and talk and work with a lender. So there are lenders that will go below a 1-to-1 ratio, and they're projection-based lenders like Community Advantage, micro lenders, nonprofit lenders. So there are options out there if you don't make enough money. So I know I'm talking fast, but I've just had a lot to kind of put in here, and then Kelly really wanted me to talk about alternative lending options. So the first few slides was just some education, kind of how to navigate it. Again, I strongly recommend that you meet with Kelly and his great team of advisors to help you get financing. Yeah. So I do have some options on here. These are these are statewide lenders. And I do name some by name. Let's see, TMC Community Capital, if you've been in business a year or more, they're a statewide CDFI. They lend on the smaller amount between 5 and 25,000. And they do like bank statement financing. So you don't necessarily need to give them your taxes if you're just looking for a small amount, which is kind of cool. Community Advantage lenders, we have one in the room today. She's going to go ahead and talk about that. So I won't go into that. United Midwest Bank, they're a national lender, so SBA 7A lender. They lend up to $150,000, and they're pretty quick. They're about 30 days. So you can apply today, turn all your paperwork in, you get financing in about 30 days. They're transactional, so you don't have to bank with them because they only have one bank in the US, and that's in Florida. But they lend nationally. And most of the time when you apply for a loan, from the time that you apply to the time that you get the money in the bank, for this is an example for non-real estate financing, it could take anywhere from 30 to 90 days. It really depends on you as a business owner and how fast you can put your paperwork in and get it to them and answer all the questions and meet all the conditions. And it's really good to know that. You can get money faster if you go online and Google it, but usually the faster you get the money, the more expensive it is. So there's a lot of fintech, financial technology loans you got to be really careful on line because they don't have to disclose their rate. So they can charge anywhere from 10% to 110%. So have to be really careful. I don't recommend any of that. There's a company called Lendistry. They're a non-bank. They're actually a for-profit entity. They do SBA, Small Business Administration, or SBA loans, 50 to 5 million. They also do contract financing, kind of like invoice financing, factoring. Yeah, so there's also somebody here that does all that other stuff. So I won't go into what Penny is going to talk about. Are you going to talk about some of that stuff, the other products you offer?
In general, yeah.
Yeah.
Not the companies, but just what to look for.
Yeah.
Or SBDC officer.
Okay, cool. All right, sounds good. All right. And then options for non-bank qualified. There's a lot of alternative financing out there. Some I recommend, some I don't recommend. You have to be very, very careful. Again, the ones that are online that don't have a location, a lot of those are non-regulated. They're a lot of people call them predatory lenders or lenders that take advantage of you. So you do have to be very, very careful. But there are some that I've actually recommended and referred. So if you have great credit, so 680 plus, but you don't have a job and you don't have a business plan because you're lazy and you just you don't own a home, but you have really good credit. Somehow you have really good credit. I don't know how, but you got it, right? And you could do what's called credit card financing, and you can go out there and get credit cards, a bunch of credit cards, and a company does this for you. They charge you about 8 to 10% to do it. And so you can get approved for 50 or 100 grand in credit cards. Essentially, you just use that credit card to buy the equipment you need or buy the materials you need or whatever. And it's 0% for 12 months because that's what a credit card is. And then you just got to be really diligent to refinance before the 12 months because then your rate will go up to 22 or whatever. But it's a really cool way, possibly if you're into that, to get the financing. If you're selling your product or service to other businesses or to government or to cities and counties, you can do invoice financing, factoring financing. They advance up to 80%. So if you have a $100,000 invoice and the company is going to take 30 to 90 days to pay you, you can get an advancement up to 80%. It is pricey, but it's great for startups and for those of you that just have to have a lot of product put into the marketplace super fast. And then you can get a bank loan later to take that out. Lendistry goes up to 30% advancement. They're one of the few lenders that I know about that actually does invoice financing in-house. And then there's collateral-based loans. So if you have an extra commercial building or an extra personal, like a residence, like a primary residence, just lying around that has a lot of equity in it, you can do what's called hard money lending. It's commercial residential. They secure the real estate and they can get you money super fast. They can get you money within 2 to 4 days. It is pricey. It costs 2 to 4% upfront to get the money as a fee, and then they charge you like interest only, and then you could pay it off anytime you want. So there's no prepayment penalty, but you can get money super fast. So if you have equity in your home and you want to take it out and you don't want to go to the HELOC to your bank because they're going to ask you a bunch of questions about why you're taking it out for your business, you can go to a hard money lender. And it's not like in the back alley where they beat you up. Like, it's just called hard money for some reason. And what they can do is they can get you money super fast, but it is expensive. But it is a good way to start as if that's for you. You can secure cars and equipment. And then if any of you retire from the state or the city or somewhere and you have like this 401k and it's just chilling there and it's making maybe a little bit of money, you can take that 401k, you can flip it into you can create a C Corp. You take your 401k, you can flip it into your C Corp and create a profit sharing inside your C Corp. And then you could put that money in your business checking account and you can use it as operating cash. And you don't have to pay it back. You don't have to pay any taxes for premature age. You can do it at 20, at age 30, at age 60. It doesn't really matter. And it costs a little bit of money to do that. But it's a really cool way to use your money to have it work for you and not take out a loan. You can use that as like down payment money and stuff like that. It's a really cool program if that's what you're into. And then I think Kelly invited me back because I have this slide that is there's money for everyone. So I truly believe that 80-90% of the people that apply for money could actually get money with business financing, as long as you know how to work the system. You find an SBDC advisor, you maybe manipulate your application a little bit. Just kidding. But like there's ways, there's a lot of things you can't lie about on application because they're going to find out about it, like your credit score if you committed a felon. But SBA has changed a lot of their guidelines. Like you could be just getting out of jail and now get a loan, or you could be a criminal and you can get an SBA loan. You could have like, flown drugs across the country and you can get a loan. Like, it's nuts. SBA kind of really opened it up. It's kind of cool now. But in all seriousness, there's a lot of money out there for you. Like, whether you're at a city or a county level, they could have local funds. They could have created a revolving loan fund within your city and county, and you just need to kind of find it. And those rates are usually a lot lower than traditional bank rates. And they're also easier accessible, and they're more lenient on the guidelines. There's transactional lenders where they just take a UCC is a universal commercial code. It's a technical term, but essentially they just take a lien on all your business assets. So if we owned a business and it was in this room, the business assets would be like the chairs and the tables and the carpet and lights and all that. They would just take a lien on all that and give. And transactional means that they don't ask you for bank deposits, like if you bank at a bank. There's state guarantee. So SBA is federal guarantee. There's also state guarantee lenders across the state of California. And FDC is financial development corporations. Essentially, they have loans programs that will insure the risk of your loan. If a bank really likes you and they really want you to get funding for you, but they don't feel comfortable to give you the loan for some reason, they'll just do risk assurance on it. So a great demonstration of that is if you take a credit box from a bank, it's like really small. They do like credit, collateral, cash flow, and then like credibility. And then they want to do your loan, they like you, but they don't want to take the risk on. So SBA and the state guarantee will essentially do this. They'll wrap it and they'll do an insurance risk on the loan so that they can do the loan for you because they want to do it for you. So there's micro, small business loans, there's ag loans, talked about fintech. There's also obviously crowdfunding, and then there's venture capitalist and angel investor financing. So not financing, but equity injection. So if you have a great product or service and you want to give up part ownership of your company, like what they do on Shark Tank, you can get angel investment or venture capital investment. And sometimes inspiring entrepreneurs want to do that. All right. So here's some financing tools and resources. If you don't know your credit score and what's on it, you should really know that before you go talk to a lender, because they're going to ask you all about it, like why you have so many lates or why you didn't pay your like utility bill or whatever. They're going to ask you questions about it. You can go to sba.gov and go to something called Lender Match to find an SBA loan that's local to you. If you want to geek out, you can go to sba.gov and type in 413 form and do some pre-homework and fill out your personal financial statement to see how much you're worth. Or you could just come to SBDC and we can do that for you, no cost. You can go to norcalsbdc.org/Fundica. It's a company out of Canada, but they somehow created some AI robots that float around in cyberspace, and they check out all this local, state, government, municipality loans that may exist in your city or your county that you don't know about, or state. And it's you just put your name, your email, a little bit of information about your business, and they'll create you an account. And based on your zip code, they'll find you all the little, like I said, government grants and tax incentives that exist. It's a free service. You can go to caloanmatch.org, and that's essentially in the state of California, there's a bunch of CDFIs, Certified Development Financial Institutions. They're non-banks. They're like nonprofit lenders, most of them. And you could type in your zip code, a little bit of information, and then what it does from there is it will essentially put all the codes in there and essentially find you the best CDFI for your loan need. They don't take your credit and all this other stuff. After they put all your information in, it'll aggregate your information and then show you like your five to 10 options. And then from there you apply. And that's when you can contact SBDC and we can help you. All right, cool. Venturize.org, also another great resource that's free to help you find financing. And then, yeah, there's an app you can download if you also want to geek out and find out what your payment's going to be for a loan. Also, you can Google that too as well, but I like to use the app. Okay. I probably don't have a lot of time left, but Kelly wanted me to go over this a little bit. So yeah, so all these case studies, they received financing. There's some like red flags in here. Obviously, this lady needed $140,000 to start a feed store. She never owned a business, but she's been playing around with horses for 20 years, like teaching them and stuff. She had a great credit score. She quit her job before applying, which sucks. But her boyfriend, who she's not married to, her boyfriend, we added him to the loan. So kind of like a co-signer when you buy a car with a child. You could do that, and the boyfriend doesn't have to own part of the company. It's really cool. And then she had 50 grand in 401k. She had no money in the bank to use as a down payment. So we did that 401k, flipped into a C Corp type thing. And she didn't have a home as collateral. So she got financing as a SBA 7A 10-year loan, kind of like through a community advantage loan. And then she did a bunch of research. She drove around the town that she wanted started in, and she counted like I think she counted like 200 little farms, and then she like did all this research, and it's pretty impressive actually. This case study, you can read it. They actually did the credit card financing thing that I told you about. Real quick, the feed store is still in business, and she bought her building last year, so it's really cool. These people are still in business too. They had no restaurant experience, but they started a restaurant. It's like a sushi poke restaurant in Davis. And they said, oh, we're just going to get a bunch of kids from the college to come. They're going to buy all our stuff. We know it. And they did the $85,000 credit card. They refinanced it in a year. So they're doing really well. They're still alive and making money and doing good. Case study 3. This guy owned a gas station. Oh, no, that's not the gas station one. Okay, this distribution company up in Wairika. He wanted to buy another distribution company, and all the lenders he went to, they said, hey, you have 400 grand equity in your home. We want to attach to your home. And he said, no, you don't. You have the building I'm buying, you have the business, you have all my equipment. No, we're not going to do that. So we were able to, the business that he was buying, they decreased the amount that the equipment is worth because they wanted to sell their company for a certain amount. Well, we found out that they deflated that. So we had it revalued and reassessed and then increased the value of the equipment. And that was enough collateral so the lender didn't have to take his house, which is kind of cool. And then this is the gas station one. He had a lot of red flags. He had bankruptcy. They were doing like construction around his gas station, and it closed down his gas station for a little while. His lender said, hey, we don't want you on the books anymore. You're either going to have to pay all your money. We're going to call your note, which means they're going to want all their money today, or we're going to default on your loan unless you can refinance it like in 2-3 months. So we're able to do that as well. Any questions? Comments, concerns? You guys are all experts now.
Who
Good to
did you
go.
go to on the refinance on that case study number 4? You recall?
Oh, I just went to local lender. I went to something like exchange or something like that. Exchange bank. Yeah.
Questions for Scott? Okay, thanks,
You
Scott.
have a question?
If you're trying to hunt down the information on the, like taking your Roth or IRA, to, turn it into.
Operating cash flow?
Yeah.
Operating cash. So, yeah,
What's the best way to go about, like, finding out that information? Just.
I can give you my card. There's a lot of companies out there that exist. There's a company in New York called Benetrends. There's a company in California called Capwell. They're a really good company. So there's a few companies that exist, but yeah.
Does it have to be a C corp?
It has to be a C corp. It's something within the law. It has to be a C corp. Yeah, it can't be an S corp. It has to be a C corp. So you can create a new entity if you want, and then just flip it in that if you have something else. But essentially, so they call that transition from that to that. They call it a rob's account because you're robbing from your future. Okay, so just know that you're taking your 401k that could exponentially grow, like 7-10% every year or whatever. Just know that you're taking that money and investing in your business, and then when you use it, it's gone. Just know that. But it's a lot of people have done it, and it's really quick way. Again, you don't have to pay it back, and you don't have to pay any interest, and it's regardless of your age. Yeah. Pretty
Scott,
cool.
I have a question here. She's barely, they've come up with an idea about a business, want to get all the information on how to start it up. They've already acquired a place where it's gonna be, but they're at the very bottom. Like, who can help her with that?
Kelly Bearden right here.
Jim Thompson, right over
Ah.
there.
Oh, that guy. Yeah, that guy right there. Yeah. Yeah, for something like that, yeah, it's really important to have it all on paper. Get all your ideas on paper and talk about like what you're trying to, launch, and look at competition, look at the team, and why would somebody invest in this, whether it be a lender or a crowdfunder or an angel and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott. On that 401k transfer to the C corp, if the business does well, they start to have a lot of cash built up in the business, can they go ahead and put that money back in the 401k?
So,
Repeat the question, please.
oh yeah. So the question is, if somebody does the 401k C corp thing and the business is doing really well, can they take that money and flip it back into the IRA? Because it goes in a 401k and then it's an IRA after you leave the company. The answer is no, you can't flip it back into the original vehicle instrument. But what you do, and I just glossed over this obviously, is that when you create the C corp, you work with a third-party administrator, a TPA, like Fidelity, for example. And what they do is they help make that transfer possible. And then when you create the C corp, what Fidelity does is they create a 401k inside your C corp. So like a profit sharing inside your C corp. So that when you hire people, they can also contribute to that retirement account for themselves. So they can all do, so essentially you set up a 401k inside your company, whether it be just for you or whether it be for all your employees. So if you are doing really well with your business, you could put it into that. And then you have your own individual 401k inside your C corp, just like you did at the job you used to work at. So that's what it does, which is really cool.
No way to do that retroactively. If you're already taking money out. I know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, potentially it could be no. It depends where it is now. Is it in an IRA? Is it in a bank? It's in land. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you would have to do like the hard money loan to extract the money out. But there could be options. Yeah, you're probably right. You can't go backwards. Unless you created an IRA again and took that money out of that property somehow, flipped it into the IRA, and then put it into the C Corp, you could do that. But you would have limitations on how much money you could flip into an IRA in 1 year, right? Because with this, there's no limitations on how much money you can transfer into the C Corp 401k. You can transfer 1,000, you can transfer 10 million. Like, it doesn't really matter. So you don't have to transfer all of your money in from your 401k or your IRA into that. You could do a little bit of it. But works really well. Cool.
Great. Thank you, Scott.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Now, for a disclaimer part, Scott and I, when we sit down, and Jim, when we sit down with our small business clients, we don't overly recommend that they, pull their retirement funds and open up a business. But the reality is we see a lot of it happening every day, and it costs people a lot of tax, and it can cost them penalty, and this is a way to avoid it. So a great alternative, great suggestions, and thanks, Scott. Okay, moving along. Let's move a little bit to kind of what we're doing now with some of the local successes that we're seeing here locally, and do a little bit of some of the successes we're seeing both with our entrepreneurs and our business owners, and also some of the programs that might be coming. And it's my pleasure to, first of all, introduce Don Morton. And Don, along with his wife, Lynn, own June Lake Accommodations. Lynn runs the Sierra Crest Realties with offices in June Lake and in Bridgeport. And they have, actually, they were our very first Zoom consulting client, advising client for our SBDC, and that was back in 2016. But Don's done some great things with some challenges, and he's going to share those with us. Don, come on up.
First thing I got to say is public speaking's not my strong suit. So, but here I am, and my name is Don Morton. Together with my wife, Lynn, we've owned Sierra Crest Real Estate, June Lake Accommodations, and June Lake Construction. In a little background, for a bunch of years, my wife and I were building homes and living in them 2 years and selling them, and we were doing really good. And then the recession happened, and I got my clock cleaned. It was hard on us. We lost our assets and destroyed our credit. But wham, that's yesterday. We were able to retain Lynn's broker's license and my construction license. But right after that, construction collapsed and real estate was just about selling bank-owned repos. And so for some reason, we scraped together a few bucks and we started June Lake Accommodations, and blind faith, you might say. Then the property where Lynn's office was located went for sale. And that was really bad in June Lake. There were no other options, so we had to buy that property. But we had no credit and had no money. And so then this is when Kelly and the Small Business Development Center came into our life, and Kelly helped us develop our business plan. We are forced to find a hard money lender that I refer to him as Guido and his buddies, but it was really high interest rates. But we got the property. And then Kelly helped us through the COVID ordeal. And I'm proud to say all our staff never missed a paycheck. One of the ladies was pregnant and had a baby during it, and she never missed a paycheck. So that was so we sat there and based on our business plan, Kelly helped us develop. We were able to find a private money investor that refinanced our high interest rate loans. And it was high then, but now then the rate we're paying is pretty good. And so since then, We've reestablished our great credit, built a solid business in June Lake accommodations, and opened up a second Sierra Crest real estate office. We've obtained a use permit on our property. We've developed and paid for the plans and engineering for the new building, and we're really close to getting the building permit on it. So once more, this brings Kelly back into the picture. I've got to use his help and guidance and connections to secure funds for a new office building. We hope to begin construction in 25. And in 21, we received the SBDC Resilience and Recovery Award for Central California. It's a nice little. Thank you. But all you got to do is keep plowing forward. And I'd also like to point out, this was in June Lake, and people don't think these things about June Lake, and there's a lot going on in June Lake. So here I am, and thank you, Kelly. And Kelly led me by hand through the whole thing. So thanks. And that's my story.
Well, Don is far too modest. And really, you really saw the hard work and determination that he and Lynn did in order to do this. And actually was at our very first Capital Summit here in 2017. And after that, shortly after that, he met Scott, and Scott introduced him to the hard money lender. And there are times when people get caught up on interest rates, and interest rates are not always the most important factors. And when there was depressed prices for property here in Mono County, try to find that now, huh? 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago, there was. That was probably closer to 10 years ago. And he was able to take advantage at a bargain price at a higher interest rate and get to work on getting that property, and now has 3 parcels and will be soon probably breaking ground on another project that's going to benefit the entire county and a lot of people into the June Lake community. So he's far too modest, and he didn't just get a Small Business Resilience Award from us. He got it from the entire Central California region, which was 6 centers encompassing 15 counties. So, Don, thanks. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Oh, Don also, until recently, was a fish commissioner here in Mono County. Well, I wasn't going to go quite that far. Okay. Our next, what I like to call a success in the making, it's working, we're working on it now, is going to be described by Alan Piasantra. And Alan is a local legend, so to speak, in the Eastern Sierra, a resident of about 40 years. He is the chair, or has been the chair, of the Sierra Business Council. But really what Alan is he's a benefactor to this entire community and to businesses, particularly maybe more so in Inyo County since he resides in Bishop, but has been an incredible resource for a lot of businesses through the pandemic. As you probably could guess earlier, that he does know Jim from a little while ago. And Alan, come on up.
Thanks, Kelly. Pleasure to be here. These economic summits that have been going on since 2017, 18, have had incredible success stories over all those years. And so I'm very happy to see all of us here today, and I hope there'll be some great successes coming out of this. Alan Pietrasanta, and I do live in Bishop, and I am actually proud to say that I have taken one of Jim's original clutter sacks that were manufactured by Wilderness Experience and used that on countless climbs and ski trips for decades. And with his crowdfunding program, it's come full circle, and I now have a new version of that. So that is a very successful story, and he understated it by many factors, believe me. So I want to talk about 3 things here. I want to just tell you about what Sierra Business Council is and what it means to you. Secondly, I want to talk about the Business Resource Center that we're developing in Bishop that will have direct impact on all of you. And then thirdly, I just want to talk about the California Jobs First program, which will have direct impact on all of us down the road. So currently, I'm the chair of the board of Sierra Business Council, which is a 30-year-old nonprofit based in Truckee. And we're a very early practitioner, one of the original practitioners of the triple bottom line focus and approach in community capacity building, particularly in the Sierra Nevada, from Kern all the way up to Plumas County. Triple bottom line, meaning that with issues that come to build community vibrancy, we deal with social issues, environmental issues, and financial and economic issues, people, places, things. And we have over the years successfully blended those. We've done work in Mammoth on housing issues. We did an airport study in Inyo and Mono County many years ago, many years ago, and concluded that the most successful place to locate the airport would be down in Bishop. It took the powers that be about 15 or 20 years to agree with that. And now we have the airport down in Bishop and its success is growing. We've worked on a strategic plan in Inyo County that has guided the supervisors and the staff there for decades on how they operate and what the people of the county want. So we've done a lot of work in the east side and the Sierra as a whole. Currently, we're very excited about a new project that's happening. We're developing a small business resource center in Bishop. I don't know how many people here may have seen work in downtown Bishop on the building next door to the movie theater, next door to the yogurt shop, right on Main Street. It's the old Sierra Hardware or Crafters Mall building. This is a public-private partnership using opportunity zone criteria to develop this business resource center that is in place, that will be in place. We're going to be open by fall. I can kind of now say that publicly because we're so far along in the construction that I can confidently say we're going to open in the fall. It has been quite a lot of work and challenge to develop, do the construction and redevelop the building, but we're going to pull it off. So we want to be a resource for existing businesses, people who want to get into business, budding young new entrepreneurs. And what we want to do is offer the free counseling services, working with Kelly and Jim and the SBDC there are business people on the east side that need to learn how to read a financial statement. There are business people here that need to develop a business plan. We want to do all of that. Since this project began pre-COVID and we became public about it, I have counseled, and Jim and I together have counseled many people in Inyo and Mono counties on how to just do some of the questions that were asked earlier, how to just start a business. During COVID, some of those counseling sessions were on my front yard in Bishop, where we sat 10 feet apart on the grass with our masks on and discuss business. But anyway, we're going to have a facility where we do that in the future. So counseling services and also access to capital and lending, just like what we're talking about here today, will have an office on the ground with all of to direct and be able to give access to all of what we've heard about this morning. So we're very excited about that. I hope everybody will be inquisitive enough to want to get involved and partner with us in what's going on there. The final thing I want to talk about is California Jobs First. How many in the room are aware of this statewide program, California Jobs First? Raise your hand. So we have a mix here. So just quickly, because there's a lot more information to talk about here. And as we speak over at the county office building right now, there is a council meeting of the California Jobs First committee. California Jobs First is a statewide program that is in existence to develop the economic strategy for California going forward for the next 10 to 20 years. This is significant. This is going to be how things work and how on both a state, from a local level, how we'll be able to leverage and manage both state funds and federal funds. So even though we're in the current period here of a scary state budget, scary this year, which hopefully they will pull this off and get something in place by the end of the month next week. There is state funds available, but there are billions of dollars in federal money coming from the IRA and the bipartisan infrastructure law. So there's a lot of money coming forward. The state is trying to figure out how to best utilize that. So they've come up with the California Jobs First program. They've divided the state into 13 regions. We're in the Eastern Sierra region, and it encompasses Inyo, Mono, and Alpine counties, and 4 counties on the west side, Tuolumne, Mariposa, Calaveras, and Amador County. So we're a sub-region, and we're all working together to put together regional strategies, which will get turned into the state's statewide strategy, and then it'll come backwards to us to work on projects that we'll be able to fund and work together. So the goals of California Job First is to create living wage jobs, build our workforce, and address climate change. And we will do that through the way the program is working is in basically 4 phases. California Jobs First is in 4 phases. The first phase was a regional summary, which was completed by the end of 2023, by the end of December. And it was to get a baseline about what our 7-county region is all about: demographics, economic information, all kinds of data. For data wonks and number wonks, this document is something you want to sink your teeth into. So that was completed by December. We are now in the phase between the beginning of, what year is this? 2024. We have a deliverable to the state by August 31st of a strategic plan. And so we have been, for the last few months, in the 7-county region, but this has been going on statewide. We have been conducting community meetings, outreaches, workshops, in our case, everywhere from Lone Pine all the way up to Bridgeport. And then we've done them on the west side as well, getting community input. So that will be folded into a strategic plan document, which the draft just came out last Friday and is up for public review right now. We're going to massage that draft based on public input, and then we're going to we have a commitment to the state to get that submitted to them by August. The next phase, number 3, is they'll be towards the end of the year, a phase of putting together programs for catalyst funding. There's going to be about $9 million that comes to our region for capacity building, and we're going to work on putting projects together to qualify for the 4th phase, which is implementation funding down the road, which is going to be about $40 million a year for 3 years, starting in 2025. So that's only the state money. And you say you say, well, Alan, $9 million for the catalyst funding. Mammoth Mountain's probably spending $9 million on Chair 1, right? I mean, I don't know how much it is, but it's not that much money. But listen when I say that what this strategic plan is putting in place a structure for the next 10 to 20 years about how we can leverage state and federal money. It's highly significant. Okay, finally, through all these community workshops and all that, how is this germane to us here? Well, in all the workshops that we did, we came up with 5 industry clusters that will affect us directly. The 5 industry clusters are sustainable tourism and recreation. Does that anybody in the room care about that? Healthcare, community healthcare. The 3rd category is working lands. The 4th category is clean energy and resilience. And the final category is sustainable agriculture and food systems. So those are the 5 industry clusters, we call them, that we're working on developing projects. And through these community workshops, with some of you may have participated in, but the town of Mammoth has been involved, Mono County's been involved, Inyo County, City of Bishop, just on the east side. We have a huge spreadsheet of projects, and we're working on developing projects that this council will then decide on implementing, putting some money in the implementation phase. So there's a lot there. If you get anything out of it, write down our website, sierrajobsfirst.org. And that will, the strategic plan is in there, what it means in there, but it is very germane to us here today. So with that, that's a lot, but any questions on either the Business Resource Center or Jobs First?
I have a question.
Yes.
When do you meet for the Sierra Business Council?
The Sierra Business Council, we're based in Truckee, and our board meets quarterly. We don't necessarily, we have different public meetings that we try and advertise. When the Business Resource Center is in place, there'll be different opportunities to meet. If you're asking about meeting for just the organization, I can work with you on that, but we're going to do a lot of community outreach through the Business Resource Center. Yeah.
Have a bilingual personnel at the Bishop Center?
Yes, we will have bilingual opportunities there. And by the way, for many of the community outreach that we did during this process of the California Jobs First, we had bilingual outreach at many of those.
Okay, great. Thank you, Alan. Great stuff. And I'm thinking Alan and I discussed a little bit yesterday, the 2025 Capital Summit, Eastern Sierra Capital Summit, very well might be at that Business Resource Center, or most likely will. And after today, I will be bringing my own projector, Alan. And that is not a joke. So, okay. One thing, it's great also, I wanted just to share this, couldn't be here today, but if many of you might be familiar with Mammoth Coffee Roasting Company. It's probably about a mile from where we are right now. They actually have done, the owners there, Steve and Tracy, what they've done is they have actually done all the legwork, and they might be the very first business to become a franchise or in the Eastern Sierra. I don't know of any others. There might be some that originate from the Eastern Sierra, but they have started selling franchise opportunities. And $40,000 will get you a franchise. And I know they're closing in on some of their very first ones. And so it's really exciting to see the growth of an individual business that actually can go through a continuing process of developing, and it's not a fast process. I believe they usually take about 18 months of creating the manuals and the processes and the strategies for actually offering, and all the legal fees that are incurred in becoming a franchise. So really some exciting news, I think, for locally what's going on as well. So I did want to mention that they couldn't be here today because of some of the, a vacation. Can you believe that? A vacation. So it's fantastic. Okay, moving along. We do have a few more speakers, and we get into some of the SBA lending. We have Craig Howells with us, and I'll give Craig the rough introduction that I've done so far today. And here's what I like about Craig Howells. Craig Howells does deals for our SBDC clients. I don't know if Scott will stand up and acknowledge the fact that in our roles at the Small Business Development Center, one thing that we do is we vet financial institutions. Is we see, and lending is very fluid and it's very dynamic and it changes. People lend, banks don't lend, lenders, programs change. They have money, they don't have money. So it's a very fluid situation. And what we try to do is we try to find out where the deals are for particularly our small business clients. And so in working with Craig over a number of years, we have several deals in the pipeline right now with him. And I really like to bring people up here that are going to do deals in our particular communities that we work in. And so that is why I'm introducing Craig Howells as the SBA Division Manager for Mission Bank. Take it away, Craig.
Let's make sure everybody hear me. First of all, I'd like to thank Kelly for inviting me up here. He's had me come up here before, and I've known him for what, 20, 30 years almost.
Done deals for us for 20, 25 years probably.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I can't thank his office enough for all the help they've given my clients. I can't tell you how many business plans, projections, just kind of getting people started in the right direction that he's helped us with. So it's just been a tremendous help. So I'd like to thank you for that. So let's see here. So how do we move these slides forward?
The arrow key, right arrow, right there.
Right. Thank you. All righty. So tell you a little bit about myself. I've been in banking a long time. You can probably tell from my gray hair that I've been around the track a few times, and I've worked at a lot of banks. So when I tell you I'm with the community bank, which is Mission Bank, it's a lot different than working with a big bank. As was mentioned before, community banks, have more flexibility in how we lend. And so it makes it easier for small business owners. I'm a former employee of the SBA. I was an SBA loan specialist. So it's rare that you get a lender who's also worked at the SBA, so you can see how the inside and the outside works. And because of that, I have a lot of friends at SBA. So if I have questions or concerns, I can make calls. I know people that know people. Let's put it that way. All right. This is my third stint as an SBA division manager. I started out at Suncrest Bank and Fresno First Bank. And so now I've been with Mission Bank for coming up on 3 years. And then just a little bit, I'm from the Valley. So, went to school in Stockton and Fresno State. And Fresno State is playing Michigan in the first football game of the season, national champs. So I'm heading over there and hoping we don't get spanked too hard. But it should be fun. So anyway, so this is just a little bit about our bank, because I think it's important you know who your partner is. When you bank with us, you want to understand where we come from. So we've been around for 25 years. We were established by basically farmers, small business owners in the Kern County area. And right now we have 7 offices, and we're going to be growing more and more. So I work remotely out of Fresno, so I just drive and travel around wherever's needed. So doing deals mainly in California, done some deals in Arizona and Nevada and others, Oregon as well, but mainly California. Just to let you know, one of the important things that the lender you're working with has experience. And so our department, most of the people in my department have 20 to 25 years experience in lending. So you don't have to worry about somebody being a rookie and having to waste, a lot of your time with stupid questions. So we plan to get things done. So I'm proud to tell you that we were named recently by the American Bankers Association as a top 20 lender in the country for banks under $2 billion that are publicly traded. We came in at number 11 in the whole country. So that's good to know. We're strong and we're doing well. We had earnings per share of 23%, which is considered really high among banks. We had an income of 30.5 for last year, and we had 100% compliance rating. So why this is important is that your partner is strong, is going to be around for a long time. All right. So why do we have an SBA department? It's basically provide small businesses with longer terms, because we also do conventional loans, and conventional loans are shorter. They require higher debt service coverage ratios, maybe collateral or more collateral. So with SBA, we can make your payment smaller, give you longer terms, and it's easier to qualify. 7A program. This is our bread and butter program. We also do 504s, but we also do a lot of 7As. So 7As are kind of the workhorse of the SBA loan program. You can basically do virtually anything on there. And it's, as was stated before, it's for-profit businesses. But these are kind of the basic items you can use it for. Loan terms are usually 7 to 25 years. I would say most of the loans that I do for working capital and equipment are at least 10 years. We rarely do a 7-year loan. It's just Makes it easier on the client if they go 10. If they want to pay it off early, they can. So, so this is kind of an idea here. Business acquisitions would also fall under a 10-year term. And recently I've been doing a lot of business acquisition transactions. I don't know why, but they're coming in and we're approving them. These are some of the basic terms, as I mentioned before. Most of our loans are, for these purposes, this is kind of the range. That's the max rate. We don't typically charge the max rate. But you can see Wall Street Journal Prime right now is at 8.5. So you can see the rates they're not low. But if you can't get a conventional loan, then this is an alternative for you. The government's going to guarantee typically 75% of the loan. So therefore, we'll take the risk. So a lot of these borrowers need the extra help, and we'll help them along. And if they get stronger and better, they can always refinance it conventionally. We do have conventional loan products at our bank. So anyway, just a quick note, loan terms over 15 years on 7As have a prepayment penalty of a 531, which is shorter than a conventional prepayment penalty period typically. So anyway, that's just, and the borrower can pay up to 25% of the original principal without penalty. These are just some of the eligibility things here. Typical projects, for-profit businesses, you must be hotels, motels, gas stations. Those seem to be, I forget the statistic, but I'm pretty sure that I saw somewhere it was like 90% of the hotels and gas stations were financed with an SBA loan at one time. So you do see a lot of SBA loans. And then typically what happens is the guys get stronger and better and whatever, and then they refinance later on. Residential care homes, restaurants, a lot of times you need SBA financing because they're considered a high-risk industry. And so we'd love to get that guarantee on those. Anyway, but there's lots of businesses that we finance. So here's kind of a list of ineligible businesses. I'm not going to go through them all, but you can kind of see, obviously at the top, nonprofit businesses are not something that's financed with the programs. And then down below, the third from the bottom, prior loss to the government. So what happens is we run these reports, the CAVers and stuff like that. And it basically tells us if a borrower defaulted on a student loan, a federally backed mortgage, and that kind of stuff. And so that could derail your chance of getting a loan. So kind of piggybacking on what Lisa said, let us know if you had a PPP loan, an EIDL loan. Recently, I will tell you a couple stories. I've had a couple people that have had EIDL loans and they stopped paying them. And so lo and behold, we have to contact EIDL and then we have to get them current. And it's a process because you have to, contact them. They have to send the money out. First of all, they have to tell the story why they're late. I had a person tell me that, Craig, we changed addresses where we live. And so we weren't getting a bill. And so I'm thinking, so if I move and I have a car payment and, stop making the payments. So needless to say, they got their loan back in good standing and we could still do the loan. But I was kind of like perplexed about the excuse. But anyway, so we've seen EIDL loans in default. I had one borrower that I looked at recently, had 2 EIDL loans in default. They got caught up and then they got corrected and we were able to make the loan. So Lisa probably has stories like that as well. So.
And I've made one payment to their EIDL loan. They didn't know
They
were supposed to start
paying. Yeah, same. I've heard that story too. So. And
EIDL loan is?
So it was a direct loan made during the pandemic. And I believe it was a 30-year fixed rate loan and at 3.75, I believe. And it, what else can I say? I think it didn't have a payment due for 1 to 2 years. Is that right? Something like that.
Yeah, it's called economic injury disaster loan. SBA does disaster loans currently. So like if there's floods or fires, they'll give you a loan like at a low rate, like 3-year for like your business or your home. And this was it was just called EIDL and it was during the pandemic and it was the best rate in the world. And it was 30-year fix, and it was amazing. And a lot of people used it to save their businesses, and a lot of businesses actually used it to keep it in their bank account and are using it now to expand their business.
Exactly. Yeah. I'd heard it was supposed to be used for working capital purposes,
Supposed to be, yeah.
but I will tell you, I had a number of my loans paid off with idle money, and
Yeah.
technically that wasn't the purpose, but there's nobody really policing it. But yeah, the best rates around. I mean, ridiculous. If you got one, great. Good loan. No fees either on that loan. These are kind of the major areas of credit. I know these have already been talked about. So, cash flow, we need to have cash flow to make repayment on the loan. And if we don't get it, then we need a business plan and projections. So collateral, we like to see collateral if we can get it, not always required. Loans under $500,000 for 7A, it's not always critical there. Financial ratios, depending on the loan size, we might be, we have to do what they call a pro forma balance sheet, and we'll compare ratios to industry averages, and we'll just make little comments in our credit memos, just kind of saying why they're above or below. Management experience obviously goes without saying. If you're going into business, we'd love to see that you have some experience in that business, or you're partnering up with someone. And then credit history. You don't have to have a spotless credit history, but let me know if you got anything going on, and we'll work around it typically. This is typical requirements. These have already been stated, tax returns, resumes, we're going to need to verify tax returns for existing businesses, or we're buying a business. So we typically will do a quick run through. We'll get an idea back, kind of like a LOI or whatever, back to somebody in 5 to 7 days. Yes.
The personal income tax return,
Yes.
say that you are doing, like, you're funding the business yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you decide to hold off until maybe a couple years down the line, you actually have an income, and so you can write up income against your actual income.
Okay.
That was one of the things I was having a little bit of issue with, is that they want income tax returns with only funding and startup fee. So how would you go about doing that? Would you just have to make statements?
So are you saying that maybe you've spent money starting a business, but you didn't file a Schedule C? Yeah. Okay.
Up to
For a few years,
Yeah.
but basically, like, she's funding out of her own bank account, but there's no income.
Right.
The income's not income.
So are you trying to count like the equity
Yeah.
injection? Okay. So I would say save the bank statements, save the receipts, invoices and all that stuff, and see if we can use that as part of the equity injection for, starting a business. But as far as income, it's going to be a fully projection deal. So everything you do will be on a projected basis going forward in the business plan. But yeah, it should be just save all that stuff. See everything? I think that's good. I just want to throw up a couple examples of 7As. You've seen a couple already, just typical gas station deal. Somebody, $1.5 million. I don't think you can get $1.5 million gas station much anymore, but at one time you could. Somebody put some money down, end up the loan, 25 years. At that time, you could see the rate was lower. Wall Street Journal Prime is not 4% anymore. But anyway, so these are just some quick examples. Business acquisitions. I'm in the process of doing my second business acquisition this year. I've done one for a guy that was buying an automotive business, and 1 year, I think that would have been one of Rich's people that helped me with the business plan on that. But the borrower didn't have a lot of money to come in with, buying a business, an existing manager at this company. So he partnered with somebody that had some money, but they could only come up with 5%. And SBA wants to see you come in with 10, typically. And so the seller carried back 5 on a full standby basis for at least 2 years. SBA considers that equity injection. So this guy was able to buy a business for only 5% in, and got him a building, a business, and he's doing quite well. So there are ways to do things. Medical equipment, just, doctor deal in Visalia, you know, went out on his own. So we just helped him buy some equipment, 20% down. He didn't have to put that much down, but he did. 504, I kind of skip over this because Lisa did a great job covering it. So I'm just going to blow through that. State guarantee program. We might have some other speakers coming up to talk about it, but basically it does a lot of things the SBA 7A loan can do. You get a guarantee from the state instead of the SBA. We participate in that program as well. But you know, basic requirements, good credit history, that kind of stuff, and guarantee up to 7 years, and then balloon payments are allowed. So those are the fees on the state guarantee. USDA programs. This is something that I used to do a lot of in the past. You can do it for profit, nonprofit, and federally recognized tribes, public bodies, that kind of stuff. And must be a citizen of the US or legal permanent resident, alien, and then facilities must finance, you know, create jobs. Must be in areas of populations of 50,000 or less. So I would suspect that this area all in here is probably eligible for this product. And then we check an address. There's like a website we go to. We can just plug in a quick address and see if it's eligible. You can use it for business, you know, expansions, purchase land, buildings, that kind of stuff, machinery and equipment, debt refinancing where it improves the cash flow or save jobs and save jobs. Ineligible use, lines of credit, gas stations, rental housing, golf courses, that kind of stuff, churches. These are the collateral requirements. Loan terms, you can go up to 40 years. Most banks will don't want to go that far out. It's just too long of a loan. We typically will do these 25 to 30 years. And the rates are negotiable. You know, they're usually based on some kind of treasury plus a spread over the treasury. Either they're a 5 or 10-year treasury bill. Lender fees, because you charge 1%, and then there's a guarantee fee charged by the USDA. 3% of the guaranteed amount. Guaranteed amount is typically 80%. And then the lender has to pay a 0.5% guarantee fee every year on the loan. Here's an example of a project that I did. Rite Aid, obviously an investor property. So another example of a project. Andy knows about this deal because Andy gave this to me in a former life. So knocked that one out. This is a deal I did up in Bass Lake. If any of you guys know about the Pines Resort, Ducey's, that's a deal I did recently. And then bottom line, this is my contact information. Please reach out to me. Like I said, I'm just a phone call away, an email away, just drive through the mountains. And I want to thank everyone here. Are there any questions specifically? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Bass Lake Resort applies, but a lot of the businesses around here, service businesses, operate on long-term leases for land owned by Forest Service or
Yeah.
SWP or a special use permit. Is there any collateral value in that property interest?
A lot of times we'll talk to to that agency and we'll see if they'll subordinate their interest at times. And then if they won't, then yeah, sometimes it can be a problem. And so we would just base it on the cash flow of the business itself and whatever business assets it has. But I know like airports and stuff like that have the same situation as a long-term lease. But yeah, I mean, it's we've done them. You know, you just have to make sure it's a long-term lease, that the lease is longer than loan term. Is typically how we work around that.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you. Oh, one more last question.
Real quick, what's the new guideline for SBA when you for a business acquisition, you don't have to buy 100% of the company anymore, you can buy a certain percentage of it.
That's true.
What is that new percentage? Is it 80%? Is it 70? Is there a certain percentage?
I will have to get back to you on that. I read through it and I was like looking at it going, this is gonna be kind of interesting, right?
Yeah,
Because
awesome.
it used to be 100%.
However, you and I, if you want to buy part of my company, you and I must guarantee the loan. Regardless of percentage, if you get an SBA loan, both owners, I'm just saying, there's two owners, both owners must guarantee the loan.
Okay.
That gets hard. That gets really hard. Yeah, that's right. And it gets hard. Yeah, and I don't know.
Especially if you got somebody who's trying to retire out, like you have an employee, make them part of the business, just know you're gonna guarantee the loan, and when you do buyout, they buy you out, and you're out. So it's a great way to do it.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, right? It used to be, had to be 100% or nothing, and that's the way it went.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks, Jim. Well, a couple of comments that I had out of that fine presentation. One is that with the economic injury disaster loan, also the SBA disaster loan from COVID, I can pair that with another comment that he had mentioned that Craig has seen a lot of acquisitions, and so are we. We're seeing a lot of people that are buying and selling businesses. And there's benefits for both. Actually, we're going to be doing a program on it, a multi-series program that'll benefit both buyers and sellers. And one of the things that we have seen is that economic injury disaster loan. Remember the favorable terms, 30 years, 3.75%? They're actually being able to be assumed in many cases by the new owners. And that is even creating a higher value for the seller who is selling that business. Just because the new owners are able to get into the deal with assuming a loan that's already in place at a very low interest rate for a very long period of time. So great opportunities in buying and selling that are going on everywhere. Okay, so our next presenter is Penny Garten, and Penny and I met today. We've been online, we've met online. If I could tell you how many times my colleagues and others have told me about the deals and the loans and the programs that Penny administers, and just glowing compliments. And I got to get her up here because we need more loans in Inyo and Mono for the programs that she has. She's a senior loan officer with CDC Small Business Finance, and that is an organization that began in back probably in the 70s or 80s in San Diego, California. I remember the founder, Art Goodman, guy that I met and knew fairly well. So Penny, it's great to have you here today. Take it away.
Thank you, Kelly.
Right.
I am start my timer here. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. I am Penny Garten. Like Kelly said, I work for CDC Small Business Finance. Just to give you a quick overview, we've been in business since 1978. We do small business lending. We are a nonprofit lender because you have to be for the government lending that we do. And those are all of our entities that we have. We actually have a new one that I need to add to my slides, which is our investment segment. So we literally do lending from minimum loan amount of 10,000 up to 10 million going through our investment. So pretty exciting. And which button am I hitting to move forward? The right arrow. Okay. So just to give you, there's some things we're not going to go over because Lisa and Scott went over them and Craig as well. But so real quick, just so you kind of know, background wise, I've been doing commercial lending for 37 years. I started as an underwriter in the industry. I worked for the big global banks, and same as Scott had said when he left his banking due to hearing all the no's. That was why I left post-COVID. I got tired of hearing due to COVID, we're not sure how this industry is going to recover, so we're not going to do the deal. And it was deals that we would have done pre-COVID. So in my own heart of hearts, I was like, you know what? I'm switching. So I switched over, and I love working here. As I tell my boss, I am so in love with my company and will never leave them. So, all right. So I'm going to talk to you about some different options, not just what our company does, but I'd like for every business owners, entrepreneurs, SBDC counselors, everybody to know what options are out there for you So when you look things up and how to find these sources, we are a nationwide company. We're actually the largest in the nation. I'll give you some numbers when we get to some of the programs. All right, so here are various lending institutions. You have your traditional banks. They do minimum loan amounts. If you're looking for a startup or small business loan, non-commercial real estate. You do need collateral. You do need to cash flow. I know some have discussed the debt to service ratio, which that you see the 1.25, and Scott told you how we come up with that number. But basically, the rule of thumb is for every dollar of debt, you have $1.25. So that makes it easier to remember. That's how I train new underwriters and salespeople to explain it. Then you have CDCs and CDFIs. A lot of people hear all these acronyms. CDC is not the Center for Disease Control. It is a certified development company. And the CDFI is a certified development financial institution. That is what my company is. I am both. I do both type of lending. So I do both federal lending and state guaranteed lending. I also do some lending where some funds are maybe granted to our company by larger companies that need to have Community Reinvestment Act credits. And so they say, hey, we've got this money, put a loan program out there so we meet eligibility. So we have some pretty big companies that we manage funds for. Minimum loan amount for us is 10,000. Maximum in my division that I work in is 350,000. We are looking at increasing because we had a recent change last year for a program that sunsetted. And then collateral is sometimes required. And I say sometimes required because this is generalized. CDCs and CDFIs are nationwide. Each entity can decide whether they're going to want collateral or not, because that's how the program reads. SBA gives you a guideline to lenders. It is not in stone. So our company, for example, we don't require collateral on our loans that we do 350 and under if it's non-real estate. Okay. Credit unions, there are credit unions out there that do business lending. A lot of folks don't know that. And I have some colleagues that work for them, so it's great, except their minimum loan amounts are about $1 million. And they do mostly commercial real estate or large scale equipment. And then we do have online lending institutions. And as Scott alluded to, those rates are normally higher. So just be real mindful what you're looking at. And if you're not sure, always reach out to your SBDCs or all of us officers. We are happy to answer questions. We want you to be financially aware of what you have out there. Doesn't matter if you're going through our company or not. If you have a question, reach out, call. Okay. Any questions on the various lenders before we move? Okay. Okay, so what is a CDC? As I said, it's a certified development company. We are certified by the Small Business Administration, the SBA. You must be certified by them in order to administer their SBA programs. There's about 260 plus CDCs in the country. Some CDCs stay within their county limits, and some programs can be done nationwide. My CDC section of the loans that I do, we are nationwide. I am one of the few senior loan officers that do deals coast to coast. Okay. Okay, preparing for your loan. This is always a question I get. What do I need? Well, all lenders will email you a needs list because you can follow this needs list and cross it off as you go along. Okay. Basically, I always tell folks, you know, if you own a company and you're hiring employees, you interview them, right? You need to interview the lender that you're going to be working with, just like you should interview your banker at your bank. Again, I've been doing lending with large companies and managed portfolios for 37 years. And there are some folks that just sometimes aren't a good fit in my book. Maybe they work better with another colleague, and that's okay. So same theory, interview your bankers, your lenders, and your CPAs, because they're part of your team. And that's really important for the success of your business. Like I said, all lenders will send you a needs list. Main thing, I know we love our phones, and I know everybody knows how to scan and take a picture, But when you send over individual pages, that blows up our system. Please convert everything to a PDF file. Tax returns, if you have it just in a hard deck, call your CPA or your bookkeeper and ask them to send you the digital, because that's how they filed it. So it's available. And then if you need help, contact your SBDC center. They're always happy to help you. I'm excited to hear that you guys are going to have a business hub. I'm on an eco group in Fresno for a bunch of counties there, and that's one thing that we are looking at developing. So I'm excited to see. I'm going to come back over when it's open, take notes, take video, and take it back and say, here's what they did. Okay. What do you normally need? Most lenders will vary. This is what I need when you are applying with me. 2 years business tax returns, existing business, current profit loss and balance statement. So if you run QuickBooks, there's a fabulous key that allows you to run them. Don't fret. If you don't run QuickBooks and you do everything manual, I'm going to send you a template that I built. It's an Excel spreadsheet, self-explanatory. And as I tell all my clients, don't worry, if you delete the formula, I will put it back in for you. Don't worry. That's the first thing. Oh my gosh, I deleted the formula. Don't worry. In addition, if you're an expansion, maybe you're opening a second location, maybe you're bringing in more employees, maybe you're bringing in another product line, you are considered an expansion. Therefore, you are eligible to do a projection-based loan with me. Okay. I always tell folks, if you're expanding, especially if you're doing a new product line or a new market, give me a brief business synopsis, not a full-blown business plan, just a one-pager. Tell me what you're doing. What are you going to target? How are you going to target it? Okay. All right. If you are a startup, those of you who are here who are startups, here's what we look for and what we need. We consider a startup 24 months and under. Okay, 24 months and under as a startup. Now, why is that key? Most business lenders require 2 years filed business tax returns, right? You go to the lender and say, gosh, I've only been in business 1 year. I only got 1 year filed tax return. And what do they normally tell you? Sorry, we can't help you. We need 2 years. Okay. That's where I come in. I'm not a bank. I have different guidelines that I can follow. So that's why we use a 24-month rule. So startup businesses, you fall in that category as well. We need 24 months projections. Business plan, as Scott alluded to also, I don't want a 30-page business plan. I want the specifics. I want the research that you've done. Tell me how you're going to do it. Give me your resume. What's your background in it? And how are you going to launch? And what are your stages, if there are? And that's what I want to know. I recently got a business plan from a client that I've been working with for a few months. His business plan was 104 pages. I said, can you please carve out the specifics? I don't have time to read it. We do read them. Our company does read the business plans. We work through them. We make sure they're right because we want to make sure that we're setting you up for success and that you've done the research. Okay. All right. Letter of interest from the landlord. Please, startups, don't execute a lease until you know you've got the funds to start your business. Don't execute the lease. You can do that at closing, on the day of closing. Trust me, your landlord will be like, okay, no problem. LOI, letter of interest, that's all we need. It's landlords know what those are. It's going to give us the structure. It's going to tell us if you're going to have any tenant improvements, if the landlord's going to pay for any of it, or if you've got to make the full amount yourself. Okay. Construction, if you're doing tenant improvements for the location that you're going into, make sure you have your bid in there. And please interview your contractor. It could move your project along a little bit quicker. Do the research. California State has a website you can check to make sure if their license is valid and current. That's what I do when it hits my desk before we go anywhere. If you're having to purchase equipment, just get purchase orders, invoices. If you're doing a franchise, get a copy of the franchise agreement along with what we call the FDD, stands for Franchise Disclosure Document. So Mammoth Coffee Brewing Company, they would have all gone through that. That cost them a lot of money to get that part for all the franchisees as being their franchisor. Okay. Projections and business plans. You are not going to get them done in 24 hours. I've had people, oh, I'll have it to you tomorrow. No, you won't. No. Take your time in doing them because this is going to be your life, your livelihood, your child. Did you teach your child, if for those of you who have children or grandchildren, how long did it take you to potty train them? My point exactly. All right. Any questions on startup information? Okay. One thing I will tell you on startups, couple of key industries, restaurants, most lenders, those of us that are CDCs and CDFIs, we are looking for minimum 2 to 5 years direct business experience in the industry as management or previous ownership. Reason why in restaurants, what we have found in the past, when it comes to the food portion, the spoilage is where you lose your money. Okay, so that's really key. And a lot of people say, because I believe it or not, I had a couple that called me a few months ago. They wanted to start a restaurant. I said, great, what's your experience? Oh, we don't have any, but my wife's a great cook. Oh. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the issue. And I told them, they said, oh yeah, that does make sense. You know, it happens. We hear it all. Those of us in this industry, we hear it all. Our job is to guide you, not to drown you. Okay, so sometimes it's a little harsher. Oh, they said no. Well, why'd they say no? Well, they said I need experience. Yeah, yeah, you need experience. And then that's the predominant one. We don't see startup gas stations anymore just because of the cost. And e-commerce. That's really big. Post-COVID, we've seen a lot of e-commerce applications. So here's what we look for. We look for 2 years minimum experience in the e-commerce industry. Doesn't mean you have to own one. Just means if you operated or help operated one, you've got that experience of at least 2 years. Okay, why? I've had people ask me, well, why is that? How do you direct the client to your website? Because it's a lot different from standing the person outside your front business door of your brick and mortar, spinning the sign, come into my store, right? Or the big banner. How do you do that with an e-commerce site? So the wheels start spinning when I tell people that, and they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. So I will tell you a couple of things. When that comes to that, please get with your SBDC counselor because they will walk you through all of the options on that. All right. 20% ownership. They will, if you are part owner of a company and you have 20% or more, you will be required to apply and guarantee the loan with the lenders. Okay, so keep that in mind. In startups, let's just say, because I've had this scenario, I've had a restaurant startup. The chef was coming in, he'd been a chef for like 20 some odd years, and he was buying in 10% into a restaurant. Nobody else had the experience. He was going to be the main chef. Well, because he managed the kitchen, that gave them the direct experience. So even though his percentage of ownership was only 10%, we required him to guarantee the loan, and he was fine with that. So that gets you past that 20% and the ownership direct experience. Okay. And I always tell people, include your resume. Doesn't matter how old you are. Do your resume, tell us your history, because believe it or not, it does help and comes in handy. All right. I'm not going to go through this because these are the 5 C's of credit. Everybody's hit them. These are the main focuses. What do we look for as lenders? These are what we are looking for. Conditions. Everybody's like, what are conditions? Your experience in a startup. So we'll kind of breeze through some of these. Please run your credit report once a year. Please. You'll be surprised to see what's on there, and you might need to clean it up. So run it once a year. It's free. Go to annualcreditreport.com or credit.org. You can run your report for free, but once a year. All right. Some lending institutions do have a minimum FICO score requirement. Some of them in my industry, CDC, CDFIs, they require normally 580 or higher. Some require a 640 or higher, some are 620. Some, my company, we do not have a minimum FICO score requirement. If you have credit blemishes in the past, more towards the end of pre-qualifying your loan, after I've looked through everything, I will pull your credit then, because I do not like to ding people's credit if I don't think we're gonna be able to put this together, or you need a little bit more work on your projections, might take a month or so, or you're still trying to find your location to lease. If you had a bankruptcy, some lenders will not take at all. Some lenders are, it needs to be discharged for 5 years, 7 years. Some lenders like mine, we have a 36-month discharge requirement. Okay. So there's still, after COVID, there are some instances we just work through. Literally, I talk through everything. Working at CDC Small Business Finance, I relate our company to what I call old school underwriting, because I've been doing this for 37 years and started as an underwriter. And it was literally, we had no FICO scores when I started. So I'm going to age myself. No FICO scores. We didn't have computers to do all this. Everything was dot matrix. Everything was, you went to this huge machine for the funders and inputters, and they pounded into this machine that had this little bitty window and this huge machine. That's how your loans got inputted. So those are the different things that I can tell you, you know, so that's why I call it old school underwriting. Tell me what happened. Let's figure this out. Okay, cash flow, we kind of went through already. Personal income, some companies, startups, you'll be projection based. So cash flow would just be based on your projections. Collateral, like I said, some companies will need collateral. Some people are going to put a second on your home if you have equity. That's some lenders, not all. My company, we don't take collateral unless you are buying rolling stock. Rolling stock are delivery vehicles, vans, things like that, because we have to be listed as a lien holder. Common forms of collateral are listed there. We do what's called a UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. Simple layman's term of what that does for a lender. Puts the lender in line. If your business fails, it gets liquidated and the lenders start getting paid off. Okay, that's what the UCC does. Does not go on your credit report, any of that. All right, projection-based loans. We do them for startups, expansions, adding a location, and business acquisitions. We touched a little bit about business acquisitions. People buying in, we just spoke about that, how if you own a business and maybe you have a partner, they want to buy in, maybe they're bringing in a second line or another line, they can buy in, but you're both going to need to guarantee the loan. Okay. Projections are considered an estimate, because a lot of people go, well, gosh, how do I figure this out? Well, it's easier if you're doing a business acquisition because you're going to have the financials anyways for 3 years minimum, plus the current financial, the current income statement. So you can work off of that. What comes into play with that is look at those expenses. Double check those expenses. Some businesses have some personal expenses being written off through the business. That's going to be eliminated. So you can work through those to really figure those things out. But basically, you're going to estimate what is my income going, my revenue that I'm going to generate for the next 24 months versus my expenses. Now, here's a rule that I use. When I work with people doing their projections, time given, I tell them, let's start with the knowns. You know what your lease payment's going to be. You know how much you're going to spend maybe on marketing. So you're going to start with your expenses first and then figure out, okay, how much revenue do I need to make then to either break even or to show profit to pay myself? So that's one thing. Do not hire somebody to do your projections. There are companies out there that will do your projections and business plan for you. If you mention that to me, I automatically decline you. Why? When we get into underwriting and my underwriter calls you, you need to be able to tell him how you derived at those numbers. If you go, I don't know, I hired somebody to do it, you are not ready to start your business. You need to do the work. It's the same thing. You're going to start a business, do the work. Okay, so that's one thing I can tell you about that. You can use templates. SBDC has great templates that you can use. Walk through it. That's why there are SBDC counselors. They are there to help you develop your plan. This is one website that I have used forever, and I refer a lot of clients to it that don't want to work with an SBDC counselor for one reason or another. Investopedia.com. They have a search bar in the top right. You punch in what you're looking for, questions, you punch it in, it pops right up. It is accurate. So one thing that I have learned back from starting 37 years ago, when they brought the computer to me and told me I was going to start underwriting on it, I was like, well, how do you know the numbers are right? And my boss goes, knowing you, you're going to double check everything. So darn right I am. And I did find an error because programs are written by human people. I found an error. So, all right, projection-based loans. All right, this is what a projection year one template looks like. It's real small, I know, but this is basically what it looks like. It's not anything overwhelming. What looks like a lot is down here in the expenses because we try to account for everything. But your top lines is your revenue and cost of goods. Okay. This is an Excel format. You plug it in, it has the formulas in it. And there are more than just this one tab. We work with folks on how do you derive at your startup? How much money do I need? How much working capital do I need? Well, you should determine that once you have done the year one, because you need to look at the bottom to figure out your net. Where are you at break even? Maybe you're 90 days, maybe you're 6 months. Maybe you need to look at those expenses again. Maybe you don't do TV advertising. Maybe you start with radio. You have to determine your cost to determine your revenue. Okay. And is it feasible? So that's what it looks, that's what mine looks like. My template I use. Okay. Need help with projections? Anybody who doesn't already have it, here is the Bakersfield SBDC site to get to. Okay, there are a lot of centers that can help you. And if you're not sure, if you're out of market for Bakersfield, you can go to the main site. It'll help you locate. You punch in your zip code. It directs you right to your local SBDC center. There are also what we call VBOT, which is the Veteran Business Outreach Center, women's business centers. There are several of them. Does Bakersfield have a women's business center? Okay.
Kern Women's Business Center.
Kern Women's Business Center. I know Fresno State hosts the Women's Business Center, and SCORE, which is also affiliated, ran off of SBA. It's also certified mentors and workshop. Okay. All right. There's my timer. How far we got? Okay, great. We're on success stories. Yay, we got through it. Okay. Past 12 months. Here are deals, just a small handful that I have done. So I ask Kelly, well, what do your folks want to hear about? These are deals I've done that a lot of folks go, oh my gosh, you got those done? Yes, I did. I got all these done. These are all folks that were told no at their bank. These are also folks that had some MCA loans, those hideous MCA loans, merchant cash advances with the 36% or higher rate. I see a lot of those coming in, get some in a better position. Real quick story when we talked about, oh, Jim's already gone, about using Kickstart. I had a coffee shop that she had a little bit of money. She didn't have enough for her injection. She did fundraising through Kickstart, but she also held volleyball tournaments and raised her money for her startup. And she's very successful today. I did that a couple of years ago for her. So these are all companies I did. It's just, you know, the HVAC company, this was literally post-COVID in Bakersfield, as a matter of fact. He was taking on some county contracts because some of the businesses didn't make it through COVID. And so county reached out to him. They asked, would you be able to assist? Said he could, but he needed the equipment and all that. So reached out and like, yes, we can do that. So those are some that I've done. All right, questions. So these are the most common questions I get asked. How long does it take to get approved? Depends on the company. 50,000 and under, I can have that done within 30 days. Anything over capped out at 350, I'm done within 45 days. That's start to finish, start to funding. Again, depends how quickly you get all the items to me. Also depends, once you've been approved, how quickly you get the items to the funder. Okay. What are the fees associated? Varies by company. What happens if the payment's no longer, if you're no longer able to make the payment? On an SBA loan. SBA is not in the business to take you home, so they will work with you. That does happen, but they will work with you. And that's coming directly from the Fresno District Service Center. What are common restrictions that we can't use loan proceeds for? Unpaid taxes, collections, charge-offs, and settlements. You cannot get a government loan, SBA or state, to cover any of that. Okay. This is my contact info. Even if you are not going to use our company for whatever you are wanting to do, I am always available for questions, that is my cell phone number, or email me. Those are the quickest, easiest ways. If you think it's going to take a longer conversation, I'll send you out an appointment link and you can look at your calendar, look at my calendar and book an appointment with me. So we're both on the same time frame. All right. I know that's a lot of info. What questions do you have?
Let's say you get approved for grants. Can you use those grants to match the capital?
Yes. Yes. Yes, you can. I will tell you, I know I get asked a lot of times, does California have any grants? Yes, they do. Go to grants.ca.gov. See if that is updated every day or every week. I'm sorry. Go in there, see if you're eligible for one of them. You apply directly on there, but that is the California State Grant site. And yes, you can match. Yes, you can use part of it as you're down. However, or we call it injection because you're injecting into the business, not like a down payment on a car or building that you're buying. Okay. Any other questions?
What is the maximum of the loan that you offer?
In my division, it's 350,000. I have another division that goes up to about 7 million. And then our investment division is 10 million. So we kind of grow with the business. The majority of the stuff that I see are clients that are either startups, they can get approved at their bank, or they don't have the full injection requirement that some banks require. Our minimum injection requirement is 10% on startups and business acquisitions. However, I will tell you, call me Monday because it's going to change. And it's not more. It is. I'll call you Monday. Yeah, really. I don't know if there's any questions on the thing there, but.
No.
Okay, we're good. All right.
All right, Penny. Penny, thank you so much. Great information. I love it when I'm here and I learn stuff too. And that 10% injection or that 10% ownership by the chef going into that business in order to qualify for the experience portion, that's priceless. Now, I did know the flip side of that, of where you would have an investor who wanted to invest more, invest maybe 25% or 30% of actually that would be their fair share. But they really didn't want to own 20% because they didn't want to personally guarantee the loans and other responsibilities of the business. And I saw the entrepreneur more than once be able to negotiate down that ownership percentage down to where the investor did not have to take on that personal guarantee role. So it's important to know both sides. So it's great. A lot of flexibility there. Thank you.